Should I give this one to you?
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call to order the City Council for May the 3rd, 2022 to order. Madam Clerk, roll call and posting of the agenda.
Councilmember Lopez,
Here.
Councilmember Madrigal,
Here.
Councilmember Perillo, Councilmember Tehran,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald,
Here.
Mayor Zaragoza.
Here.
The agenda for this meeting was posted in the City Hall Bulletin Board on April 21st, 2022. Thank you.
And Madam Clerk, Councilwoman Basu is going to be a little bit later, probably about 6:30. Thank you. Okay, so our next item is going to be the appointment item, and this is B1, Cultural Community Service Department, subject to Senior Services Commission Annual Report. And the recommendation is the City Council receive the Senior Services Annual Report, and we have Mr. Harrison.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. Tonight is very special for us. We have some of our senior commissioners here. We have Commissioner Montgomery. And we also have Commissioner Owens here with us. And our chair, Chair Sweetland, is not, she's on her way, but we're just going to go ahead and have Commissioner Clark Owens come up and make the presentation tonight.
Thank you. Welcome, Commissioner.
Thank you. This evening, we're going to have a short slide presentation for you that gives you some of the information and the activities that the Senior Commission and our senior citizens are committed to. If we could have that slide, I would appreciate it.
Okay, Diego's going to help us out.
This gives you an indication of the things that we have done throughout the year and the activities that we've had. It's very informative. It's not a long slide, but this will give you some information that I think is very important because we're trying to expand and provide more services to our senior citizens that we possibly can.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. The Senior Services Commission put this annual report together to not just tell you, but also show you what has transpired over the past year. And it's been an interesting year. While many of our programs encountered the opened, closed, and then opened again experience we are now all familiar with due to the pandemic, one of our programs has continued unabated, our Senior Nutrition Program. Over the past year, staff provided 13,149 meals, primarily takeout, to participants who previously would have gathered and socialized inside a center. This service was important because so many of our seniors remain fearful of catching COVID and avoid crowded places like grocery stores. We also delivered 14,675 meals to homebound seniors. The physical delivery of these meals was absorbed by senior services staff in July as the contract with FoodShare, who had been delivering the meals, ended. This move has given staff more control and the ability to be more responsive to our residents when they need a meal quickly. RSVP made some adjustments, enabling its volunteers to continue offering senior exercise classes. Its popular Tai Chi Moving for Better Balance program went online, holding classes through Zoom, and then also became part of Oxnard Rec Outdoors. These in-person classes were provided first in College Park and Del Sol Stadium before settling into Oxnard Beach Park, where classes continue to this day. About 35 people participate in each class. Tai Chi's instructors also organized a World Tai Chi Day in 2021, using the COVID safety circles painted on the park's grass. Our senior gardeners continued growing healthy vegetables and beautiful flowers, filling the beds in the senior garden behind the Wilson Park Arts Building with seasonal delights. They also installed pollinator gardens on the edges of the growing area. These will attract bees and butterflies to the garden and in turn help pollinate vegetable blossoms. We held garden community meetings throughout the year with 20 people attending these. The garden is popular and has a wait list. Volunteers Craig and Rosa, who have a vegetable garden, also have continued to keep the adjacent rose garden vibrant and colorful. At mid-year, we brought our long-closed Colonia Senior Center back online. The facility that once housed the center is gone, and we are now using the Recreation Center in Colonia. About 20 people attend daily, and we hope to expand senior nutrition services to that center soon. Lawn bowling also continued for much of the year, as it is held outside on the greens in Wilson Park. Throughout the year, we found ingenious ways to adapt programming through the many phases of the pandemic. When we could gather, activities were typically moved outside. There were art classes held on the patio at our Palm Vista Center, and a corresponding Art-to-Go activity packet that seniors could pick up and complete at home if they didn't want to be out with others. 160 people participated in these classes. Look at those lovely pieces. Even with the pandemic, and perhaps more so because of it, seniors needed to know about services available to them. But we couldn't hold a traditional health fair inside. So we set up a wellness fair, sprinkling vendor tables throughout Wilson Park to facilitate social distancing and COVID safety. Over 100 seniors attended. The Ventura County Area Agency on Aging moved many of its services online, including their widely anticipated Fall Prevention Forum. To facilitate attendance and make sure our seniors heard the important health information provided, we held outdoor listening parties at our active senior centers, displaying the daily seminars on large screen TVs over the course of a week. Holiday celebrations are important markers for the passage of the year and life. We always celebrate 100th birthdays. Well, in this case, a 101st birthday. Mayor Zaragoza came along to include his birthday wishes. We celebrated Valentine's Day together at our senior centers with over 90 senior friends participating. And for Easter, there were goodies hidden throughout the Wilson Rose Garden, bringing the joy of that season to our participants while also keeping them safe. 85 people participated in the Easter egg hunt. 2021 ended with a burst of holiday fun. On Halloween, we repeated the previous year's successful trunk or treat drive-through in the Wilson Park parking lot. Staff decorated the back of their cars and handed out bags of candy and other goodies to seniors as they drove through the event. This also marked the debut of Recreation's wildly popular new Halloween float. Our Thanksgiving celebration attracted over 200 participants. Each received a special catered lunch, which could be eaten at a communal tables outside or taken home. By Christmas holidays, we were back inside on a limited basis. To celebrate the season, seniors were invited to a walkthrough at the Wilson Senior Center. This event featured stations around the center, starting with photos with Santa, moving on to holiday cards and goodies, and ending with a special takeout lunch. As we slowly return to a new normal, our centers are again open and offering programming. Loteria is greatly enjoyed at a few centers, as is bingo. The pool room at Wilson is always busy and practically a home away from home for many. Our technology rooms are used by seniors to learn about iPads, computers, and getting online, as well as to check email and do research. We all know having the ability to interact virtually is essential these days. When the centers reopened, RSVP Bone Builders restarted as well. Several classes have lost their previous homes and moved into the Wilson Arts Building. These classes help build bones, enhance strength, and create community. During COVID, class members kept in touch with each other despite not being able to meet and exercise. They are happy to be together again. Last but not least are our most exciting plans for a new senior center. Planned for construction on the corner of Patterson and 5th Streets, a feasibility study was just completed at the end of March 2022 regarding the ability of our partner, Orcas, to operate the facility. Current plans call for the center to have a cafe, large auditorium for use by senior nutrition as well as rentals for the community, numerous small classrooms, senior services offices, a game room, and a multitude of outside amenities such as barbecue and pickleball courts. We look forward to the continued partnership with Orcas to make this dream come true as we move forward with the building process. We are excited about 2022 and all the good things that are planned for the year. Thank you for your ongoing support.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Owens. That's an excellent presentation. Hi, Ms. Sweetland.
Sorry I'm late. I was walking. It took me longer than I thought.
But it's good exercise. Thank you. Thank you.
1.7 miles. This is Clark Owens, and this is Larita Montgomery. I'm Alice Sweetland, and our fourth commissioner is not here tonight, Jeff Nevitt. So
We want to thank you. That's an excellent presentation. I know in the past, I know this is probably the second year it was virtual. For the first year, we commended you folks, but my understanding that all the work that you folks do equates to thousands and thousands of hours, volunteer hours. And I remember at the time, if you put even minimum wage to, I can't remember how many hours you
Well,
guys.
Mary Sue has those figures.
How many?
You want to,
RSVP?
he wants to know
Yes.
how many hours, yeah.
I have it, but you have to let me get to it.
Just a rough estimate, and to share with the public, the amount of hours that you put in, volunteer hours that help the community times the minimum wage equals.
So RSVP volunteers, all of them, there's 265 who put in hours last year. They totaled almost 25,000 hours
Oh my
of
goodness.
service.
See.
And we're down to about half of our volunteer crew because of COVID. I don't have it times minimum wage. I have it times the industry standard
Uh-huh.
of what a volunteer hour is worth. And using that, it's worth $885,337.
See, put your hands together. That's really fantastic. That's really.
So, and we had a good year. We're getting going again, meeting in person. And Clark Owens can tell you a little bit about the new senior center.
Okay, Clark. That's
Thank you.
Patterson and Fifth. Right?
That's correct.
Mhm.
As you had seen on the slides, that portion of the slide material was concerning the new senior center. Our intention is to retain the senior centers that are existing at the present time and develop the state-of-the-art center that will provide more information, more services, and more activities for our seniors. As you know, we're growing all the time, and our seniors need someplace to go. Communication is extremely important for us to make sure that our citizens are aware of what we're trying to do and what is available. And I appreciate everything that the city council provides and does for our city and for our services. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And by the way, it's going to be probably in combination with Wilson Center, Colonia, and Bard, right? You
Correct.
can work together as in a
Absolutely.
partnership.
And Palm Vista.
And Palm
At
Vista.
Palm
that's
Vista,
correct.
right. Exactly. Well, thank you. Thank you for the excellent work. It's, in fact, at our opening ceremonies, we're going to give you a little proclamation that we're going to share even more so than what you folks said. But thank you again for excellent work that you've done for the community.
Do you have
Council members?
something to say, Larita?
Councilmember,
I would just like to say it's a
Come on over
pleasure.
here.
come on, come on.
Come on over here.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I would just like to say it's a pleasure to be a part of the Senior Services Commission. You know, becoming a senior, and that was something strange to me, but it's been a pleasure working with this group especially, and all the things that we have to offer our seniors in the community. It is a pleasure, and I've been able to share that out with the community that I'm involved with. And otherwise, they were not receiving it, excuse me. But once again, thank you for having this program available to us.
Absolutely. And is that your commission that also delivers meals to the folks at home? Can you share a little bit about
Yes.
that? That's still happening? Can you give some more information on that?
Yeah,
Well,
we
we-
had some figures of the home delivered meals. I don't,
It was in the video. but
You know, just,
it was
you know,
short.
yeah, but
Just
we
a
have
couple
the
of words.
congregant meals and they can eat now in the Wilson Center and
Mhm.
Palm Vista. And then we have the home delivered meals and I can't remember the
but
statistics.
that's good. I understand that.
1,900 home delivered meals, yeah.
1,900.
And I think close to 4,000 congregant meals. in
Correct.
the
That's
centers.
excellent, excellent.
Right.
So, and these are people that, really depend on that hot meal once a day.
Exactly right. That's very good. Thank you so much. I think Councilman Turan wanted to share some words.
Yes, thank you very much to Chair Sweetland and the other commissioners. Thanks for being here this evening, and thanks for the presentation that summarizes how much work that you all actually do. And even at minimum wage, it was like $375,000 or something that I had calculated. So amazing work on that. One question that I have is, if we have other senior residents who would like to sign up for programming or get involved or find out more information about these programs, who can they contact, or how can they get in touch with somebody about that?
They call the Senior Services Office. Mary Sue, do you have the phone number?
805-385-8019.
I have it on my speed dial, so I never know
Would-
these numbers.
8019.
Yes, would you mind repeating the my number again? Sorry, I tried to say it before you walked away, but my mic was off.
Sure. The phone number for the Senior Services Administration Office is 805-385-8019. And from there, we can send you to any
Thank
of the
you.
senior centers of the programming.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, those are my questions, Mayor. Thank you all again very much.
Thank you. Councilman Perrella.
I'd like to thank you all for the volunteer work you do to help the organization. As has been mentioned, when someone is fortunate enough to live long enough to become a senior, certain things become important. And I'd like to share this. It's multiple millions of dollars. I remember the first time on this council when I asked how many hours and multiplied it by minimum wage, everyone was floored. How much money volunteer you do. Volunteer for the city of Oxnard. Saves the city government money, helps you, and helps the residents you provide the services. It's come to my attention, if you watch the last Measure O committee meeting, the last week, you'll hear the discussion about funds for the senior services and directing them to that and the concerns. And upon further looking in 2014, there were items in those minutes, approved minutes, that funds were to be directed. One of the issues that sometimes comes up, the seniors will be one group advocating for something, but there are also a lot of groups advocating for youth. And I've always been the contention, those that are fortunate enough to have kids, they want to advocate for their youth. Some that don't have kids, they want to advocate for whatever they want to do. But no matter what, children live on the shoulders of mom and dads and grandpas and grandmas. And grandpas and grandmas are much more inclined to give up what their fair share of the pie should be to help the kids. It's been going along too long in the city. The senior services facility needs to be built. And one other thing I'd like to bring to your attention. I had an opportunity to attend the Kiwanis Police Awards Luncheon, and I sat at the table. I was fortunate enough to sit at the table with a detective for the Oxnard Police Department named Erica Escalante. She got an award from the police department, and she got accolades the following crime victims thing week from the district attorney. She's been heavily involved in fraud where families, children have taken advantage of their parents, cleaned them out of life savings, property, everything. I would recommend that you touch base with her. She's very willing to meet. The Senior Services Commission, Orcas, anybody else. This is an asset. And if nothing else, ask the police chief for the speech that he read and recognize her and all the accolades. She's a humble woman, but I'm telling you, this lady is an asset for you to mine for everything you can get. She is an asset to the city and to your group, a group I belong to, seniors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good
Mayor Pro Tem.
Good resource.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank the seniors for all the work they do. It's been over 2 years since we've had an RSVP luncheon, and I'm looking forward. It actually was wonderful to see some of you down in person instead of remotely. And I'm just so thankful for all the work you do. And when you hear all the hours that they contributed, Mary Sue, said the hours, it's just phenomenal. And you all have such expertise and experience that all of us would hope to have sometime. There's a couple seniors up on the panel here. I'm getting close to being a senior, but
I see a lot of gray hair there.
yeah, in my dreams. But thank you for all your work, and there'll come a time when I'll be over there having coffee in the morning and just having a good time. So thank you for everything that you do for this community. God bless you all.
You're welcome.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Councilman Lopez.
Thank you, Mayor. And I too want to thank you all for your work as commissioners and our staff who is working with you to ensure that these services are reaching all our seniors in Oxnard. And seeing that there's 4 of you, I wanted to make that call for anyone who might be interested
Yes,
in
please.
joining, being a part of the commission,
Yeah.
that there are some slots available, and you, 4 of you are doing amazing work. So I can only imagine that with 5, 6, and 7, you will do even greater things. So I just wanted to put that call out for anyone out there who might be interested in joining you in these efforts. So thank you.
Appreciate that.
And,
Thank
and
you.
we're a fun group too, aren't we?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
We have, thank you. We have our city manager like to make some comments.
Yes, I also want to add my thanks. That was a fabulous video. That's the first time I've seen it. I am a little jealous. I had no idea you have a Valentine's Day party. So now I know where to go next year.
You didn't get invited.
No, I didn't.
Oh.
Thank
Oh,
you.
darn.
Bring your mom.
Yeah.
Again,
No, it's for me.
again, thank you so much. And again, I hope our residents realize the amount of money that you save the city by helping us out tremendously, and especially handing out food for the seniors that cannot leave their homes, and for all the holiday parties that you have, and just the good work that you do. Thank you tremendously. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to address the Valentine's Day. Just before COVID was the first dance that I'd been to since I was a little kid. And they have a tremendous dance and a tremendous event, and you put on a good show. And I'm sure you're going to continue it. But I can partake that was an excellent event, Mayor, city manager, not mayor. But
And again, as I said, in our opening ceremonies, I'm going to present this proclamation to you, and probably in the next 30 minutes or so. Thank you
Okay.
so much
Thank you
again.
so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So then, Mr. Harrison, we got to call him back. And now we have, the subject is a presentation by the Youth Coalition of Oxnard on waste disposal research improvements. No? Oh, okay. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening and thank you, Mayor Zaragoza, City Council members, City Manager Nguyen, city staff, and residents of Oxnard. Thank you for allowing us to speak this evening on behalf of the Youth Coalition of Oxnard. Please allow us to introduce ourselves. Oh.
So you have the power, do you have a PowerPoint you want to show? Okay, good. Hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, can you reinstate your name again?
Yes. So good evening and thank you, Mayor Zaragoza, City Council members, City Manager Nguyen, city staff, and residents of Oxnard. Thank you for allowing us to speak this evening on behalf of the Youth Coalition of Oxnard. Please allow us to introduce ourselves. My name is Fernanda Lisbeth Ruiz Vargas. I am a senior and the president of the ACT Club at Oxnard Middle College High School and of the Youth Coalition of Oxnard. I live in the Kamala neighborhood.
Greetings to Mayor John C. Zaragoza, council members of Oxnard, staff and residents. My name is Leslie Lopez. I am a senior and vice president of the ACT Club at Oxnard Middle College High School and a youth leader of the YCO. I am from the South Winds neighborhood.
Thank you. Mhm.
A very good evening to all in attendance, and thank you to Mayor Zaragoza, the council members, and City Manager Nguyen for having us here. My name is Katya Tran. I am a freshman and student activist for the ACT Club at Oxnard Middle College High School and a youth leader of the YCO. My family lives in the Seaview neighborhood.
Thank you. Mhm.
Hello to our mayor, Mrs. Zaragoza, to our attending council members, city manager Nguyen, all staff and residents. My name is Tracy Huang, and I'm a high school senior. I'm the student intern for the Bright nonprofit organization, and I'm the YCO's recruitment liaison for Pacifica High School. My family lives in the West Village neighborhood.
Thank you.
Good evening to all. My name is Emily Ramirez. I'm a freshman in the 9th grade recruitment chair of the ACT club at Oxnard Middle College High School and a youth leader of the YCO. I live in the Terra Vista neighborhood. We are a civic engagement youth group. Funding is provided by UCLA through their All Children Thrive program. Our coalition is composed of Oxnard Union High School students from multiple high schools in the Oxnard district. Through ACT club activities, we gain leadership skills, learn public speaking, professional communication, and team building. We are youth-led movement, and our mission is to help Oxnard youth become advocates for themselves and for others by participating in neighborhood and city council meetings. We hope to bring positive changes to our community.
Thank you. Mhm.
A Ventura County youth development nonprofit called Bright, which stands for Building Resilience and Inclusion Through Engagement, used ACT funding to bring a project coordinator into Oxnard schools. Patricia Lau Cho works with us to organize our civic engagement efforts. Students also benefit from Bright team member Rodrigo Zaragoza, who helps us work with the Mixteco community in Oxnard. The YCO is here tonight to present the results of an 8-month-long research project that began at the start of our academic school year in September of 2021. During classroom workshops, we explored issues that directly affect us and our families. Students identified trash as the issue we wanted to focus on. It is a major concern for the health and well-being of Oxnard residents. This led to surveying our neighborhoods and documenting the garbage management problem in Oxnard. We made it our goal to find possible solutions, and we think the City Council has the ability to help alleviate these issues. And we hope you will consider our recommendations.
Thank you.
The first issue that we identified was inadequate garbage bin capacity. Oxnard residents are being affected by the housing crisis. The cost of rent and mortgages have gone up dramatically. To afford the high price of housing, family members band together and squeeze larger numbers of people into homes that were meant for a single family. We see multiple families sharing single family homes. Many Oxnard High School students shared their stories of living in multi-generational households that are not just mom, dad, and a couple of kids. It's also grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and sometimes even close family friends pulling together their wages in order to keep a roof over their heads. These larger sized households will naturally produce larger amounts of trash. A single family residential garbage bin is inadequate for the disposal needs of many lower income families living in this situation. This is an example of overstuffed trash bins that can be found in all neighborhoods across Oxnard. When the lids cannot be closed all the way, wild animals can reach in and tear open trash bags. The garbage spills out onto streets. The homeowners then have to deal with an embarrassing mess in front of their houses. This can often lead to neighbors getting upset with each other. This can also have a negative effect on young children living with garbage on the streets where they play. How can children have a good self-esteem if they're not proud of the neighborhood they live in? It's unsanitary. It's also a health hazard to have garbage scattered on sidewalks and on people's front lawns. One gust of wind and the garbage will blow all around, making other areas of Oxnard look dirty too. The photo on the left is of Pacifica High School students walking to school on Entrada Way in the West Village. Imagine having to pass by overflowing garbage bins every week on the way to school. That is a sad way to start the day. The mental and emotional health of teenagers, like myself, can be negatively affected by seeing this garbage problem. The photos on the right were taken in La Colonia neighborhood. Imagine how many people are living in small homes like this and producing that much garbage. There must be a way to help lower income families so they don't have to shove giant amounts of trash into a trash bin that is clearly not big enough to meet their needs.
Thank you.
Here we see overfilled trash cans in the Kamala neighborhood lined up and waiting to be collected. Our research found that if garbage can lids are not closed properly and lift up even by a few inches due to overstuffing, the trash trucks will not empty the bins. Instead, the truck drivers leave a note saying that there is too much garbage and the residents have to find another way to dispose of it before pickup resumes. Residents are left with two choices. They either store their excess garbage until it can be disposed of in smaller increments, which is unsanitary, or they will try to discard the garbage somewhere else, which leads to illegal dumping. Our youth coalition spoke with Oxnard's Environmental Resources Department at 2 separate Zoom meetings. We learned that the city has an assistance program for lower income residents. At the second meeting in November of 2021, we also learned that it costs $11.36 per month to get an additional bin. But if families are struggling to pay rent, and in most cases, they are struggling to put food on the table, how can they afford to start paying for additional garbage bins? So our first proposal recommendation is that the city expands the assistance program. We ask that you please consider increasing the income level needed in order to qualify for assistance. The city should also offer larger discounts or even free garbage bins to residents who qualify. The Environmental Resource Department should provide an educational outreach program to let people know that they can order an extra bin. Because during our research, we found that not many residents are aware of this. Residents also need information on how to qualify for economic assistance if $11.36 extra per month is too much. This would not only help our neighborhood streets stay clean, it would also make residents from lower income areas proud to live in a safe and healthy environment.
Thank you. Becky.
The next issue on the subject of Oxnard's trash is the garbage coming from our local parks. Again, we see garbage spilling out, but this time it's from a public trash can. This photo was taken at a playground next to Berkey Elementary School. We all know that residents use our local parks for special occasions like birthday parties. It is wrong to leave behind trash and overstuff the garbage cans. However, it is also necessary to have a better disposal system in place. Many of the aging garbage cans at local parks are broken or damaged. The trash can in this photo is missing the front flap. Even when the can is not overstuffed, animals will still be able to gain access to the garbage inside. We also found that a lot of park trash cans are missing their lids. Here's an example from West Village located next to the Oxnard Historical Farm. This is a very popular spot for parties on the weekends, and the entire top of this trash can was exposed because it didn't have a lid. As the city already knows, the West Village is a fairly new neighborhood in comparison to neighborhoods like Kamala and others in South Oxnard. If trash cans in newer parks are in these conditions, the trash cans at older parks are worse or unusable. Again, due to the housing crisis, Oxnard residents need to utilize public spaces because their homes may feel small and overcrowded. Parks are a low-cost place for families to enjoy the outdoors and each other. With more people using parks, more trash will be created. This is why the YCO's second recommendation is to repair and replace the existing park trash cans. Most parks need all new trash cans. The requirements for these new cans should be 1, a very secure top, and 2, a place for people to place their recyclables so it's easier for people looking for bottles and cans to get them. Then they won't try to break into the trash. If possible, have the new trash cans be larger so they can fit the amount of garbage that comes from parties, sporting events, and recreational activities commonly held at parks. Please also consider adding a small dumpster on holiday weekends.
Our research project led us to think about what happens to the trash that spills out of the residential bins and park trash cans. It is our Oxnard beaches that suffer major effects. The YCO hosted a beach cleanup at the Oxnard shores near the Mandalay Resort. Here we learned of the dangers that micro garbage poses on the local sea life and to residents or visitors of the area. People are being exposed to plastic particles and other toxic materials that are not easily visible. With the support of Oxnard City Corps, the Youth Coalition learned the painstaking job it takes to pick up garbage at that minuscule level. Eliminating decomposing trash at the beach will help prevent micro garbage. The YCO's commitment to addressing economic disparities brought us to visit Ormond Beach. By joining Hueneme Councilman Steve Gama, the Coastal Keepers crew, and the environmental activists from the Port of Hueneme, we saw the great need to clean up the beaches that serve residents of South Oxnard and Hueneme. Compounded by the homeless population that lives near the Superfund site at the end of Perkins Road, large amounts of trash collect along the sand embankments, then the trash washes out to Ormond Beach during rainstorms. Garbage then free flows into the ocean, which endangers our native birds, marine life, and the lower income families that live in that area.
While helping to pick up the hundreds of pounds of garbage off Ormond Beach on January 8th, 2021, Youth Coalition members noticed that the city of Oxnard had to provide dumpsters in order to dispose of the trash that was collected. But what happens when there are no organized beach cleanups? There are no permanent garbage cans at Ormond Beach. Once on the sand, beach visitors have to carry their garbage all the way back to the Wainimi Beach parking lots or walk to the few garbage cans near the pier. Anyone trying to clean up the beach will have a difficult time reaching the garbage cans. This is the reason our third recommendation is that the city of Oxnard place a permanent dumpster-sized disposal unit on the sand at the border of Wainimi and Ormond Beach. The city should also add it to a routine collection schedule. As we saw the January beach cleanup, the city is capable of placing multiple dumpsters on the sand at Ormond Beach and then removing them. As a show of support, the Youth Coalition volunteers to paint the new disposal unit with original artwork by our coalition members. This will help spread awareness and make the trash receptacle a more appealing sight on the beach. We hope the city will approve this recommendation, and the YCO looks forward to attending more of the beach cleanup projects.
Our last issue was briefly mentioned as one of the results from inadequate residential garbage bin capacity. We need to address the problem of illegal dumping that is polluting our neighborhood alleys, the roads lining our farmlands, and anywhere residents find access to dumpsters. This issue is of great concern to residents. The following photos come from Oxnard residents who posted pleas for help on a Facebook group called Citizens for a Better Oxnard. This is a 10,000 plus member online group for Oxnard residents who want to improve our city. These are examples of what local residents must deal with on a daily basis. It worsens when our garbage goes uncollected. The neighborhood councils are big supporters of neighborhood cleanups that entitle each neighborhood to a one-time per year bulky item pickup by the city. But this can only happen if the neighborhood has an active council. At the moment, about half of Oxnard's neighborhood councils are active, and only 1/3 are really active. This means that only 1/3 of Oxnard residents would benefit from these cleanup events. Also, neighborhood councils have to find enough volunteers to help organize and run the cleanup event. Translation: only once a year, the luckier neighborhoods might be able to schedule a Saturday morning for the city to bring out dumpsters. Then, residents can dispose of mattresses, broken furniture, and other large bulky items. However, they still have to haul these big trash items to the designated location on cleanup day. If residents miss the event because that is such a small window of opportunity, then they will have to transport their large items to the Del Norte Recycling Center. Sometimes they have to pay in order to have their garbage accepted. The Del Norte Center is located in North Oxnard. It is not a close drive for South Oxnard residents. If residents do not have money for gas or maybe don't have a vehicle, they will not be able to get rid of their large bulky trash. This leads to illegal dumping. We are also convinced that charging for bulky item pickup is another main cause of illegal dumping. The irony is that after people illegally dump their trash in alleys and roadsides, the city still has to pick up that garbage anyway, essentially for free. The current system is neither fair nor efficient for residents without means to dispose of their large bulky trash. The YCO did an investigation of California cities similar in size, demographics, and/or commercial production to Oxnard. Those cities included Fresno, Salinas, Modesto, Oceanside, Camarillo, and Bakersfield. Youth called public works from each city to ask how they dealt with their illegal dumping. We found that cities can successfully manage illegal dumping by offering free bulky item pickups directly to their residents. So, our fourth recommendation is that in addition to the annual neighborhood cleanups, Oxnard should offer residents a way to call the city to schedule direct pickup of their large bulky trash. We ask that the city consider providing a one-time per year free bulky item pickup per household, a one-time per year free green waste pickup per household, and a one-time per year free recyclables pickup per household. That means each household would have access to pickups for the 3 different types of waste materials. One time each year for free and directly from their place of residence. It would also help to create a major educational outreach program to let people know about the free bulky item pickup and announce that new significant fines will be charged for illegal dumping. We do not want people to be caught unaware and incur costs when they are already struggling financially. If other cities can do it, we believe in Oxnard leadership's ability to implement and do the same.
This concludes the YCO's presentation and for recommendations to help solve the major problems affecting Oxnard. We love our city. Thank you again to the mayor, city council members, the city manager, Oxnard city staff and residents for having us on the agenda. We hope to keep being part of this conversation as the city strives to correct these issues. Thank you all for listening and allowing us to be leaders for the future. Good night.
Thank you. And I want to thank the Youth Coalition of Oxnard for your excellent presentation. I think that's excellent. All the high schools and schools in Oxnard working together to clean up our city. You know, as one of our priorities that we put together for the city of Oxnard is to make sure that we clean up our entrances to the city, make sure that we clean our parks, make sure that we clean up our city. And you guys are it. You know, you guys are the ones that are doing it for us. You know, the proper trash containers, I'm sure the staff is going to be looking at your presentation. People need to have the proper trash containers or collection on time to make sure that we don't, that they don't spread garbage and so forth. And one of the things too that I want to thank you is for the cleaning our beaches. And I want to thank Councilman Gama for helping out tremendously out at the beach. I know that our city has worked with the providing trash containers, you know, for the cleanup program. And the partnership with Wanimi is a good partnership. Also, you know, our cleaning up our parks. We are working on cleaning up our parks, making sure that they're nice and clean, make sure that our bathrooms are clean, make sure that there's plenty of refuse collection. And also, I know that our staff is working on businesses and apartments that need more pickups, that need more collection for the residents. But again, I want to thank you for an excellent presentation. You know, they say that our youth are not doing anything, but you guys are an excellent example. You're the mentors. You're the people that are going to help us clean our city. Thank you tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have Councilman Turan.
Excuse me, Mayor. We do have one public speaker for this item.
Oh, we do?
Yes.
Why don't we take the public speaker around?
Sure.
And then stand by and we have the council members ask us a question. Who's a public speaker?
Yes, public speaker caller with number ending in 6377.
Yes, hello.
Hello, may I ask who's calling?
This is Manuel Herrera calling.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, thank you. Well, this is Manuel Herrera. I'm the creator of Citizens for a Better Oxnard. And, you know, I have spent literally years trying to get people to get involved in their community. And it's been a long struggle. It's been really hard to just, you know, get people involved. So do you know how much pride it gives me to see these youth, these high schoolers with the Youth Coalition of Oxnard, to see what they're doing, to see how they're doing their part to engage in the community, because this is their community as well. And this community, you know, they're the future leaders of this community. So my God, I'm like a dad whose kids are progressing, you know, and doing something great, you know. So, you know, I have yet to meet them, but, you know, I want to thank each and every one of them. The only name I caught was Fernanda. I was trying to write down all the names as they spoke, but I wasn't able to write down all the names. But I want to thank each and every one of them for what they're doing. Thank you so much. And again, I am extremely proud of them. They did an outstanding presentation. Boy, it was amazing. So I also want to thank the city officials who have met with them. Thank you for taking the time to meet with them and to show them that they do count and that their word, you know, does make a difference. And I also wanted to thank, and I hope I pronounce her name right, it's Patty Lau Chu, I think is her name. She's the project coordinator for Bright. She's doing an outstanding job with these youth. So again, thank you so much for what you're doing. We really appreciate you. Keep up the good work. And by all means, keep using Citizens for a Better Oxnard to your advantage. Anytime you're working on a project or anything, feel free to go on there, engage the rest of the members. We were all here for you. We will do whatever we can to help you. So again, keep up the good work. Extremely, extremely proud of you girls. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manuel. As mentioned before, we are in good hands. And also Patty, my apologies from Bright. Thank you so much for being here today. Okay, Councilman Turan.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, thank you to our presenters who took the time, not just to be here tonight, but obviously put so much time and effort into all of this work. Did you say it was 8 months? Is that what it was? Yes. So head nods, yes. So that is essentially an entire school year. And knowing that in addition to going to school, I heard a number of you are seniors. I heard a couple of you are in 9th grade. So on top of going to school, doing what you have to do already, and then if you're a senior, the senior activities and getting ready to transition out of high school, on top of all of that, you did this project outside of what you already do, which is a pretty big project because you looked at your environment, you looked at things that were concerning to you, and you wanted to see how can you make positive change around it. And that required first coordinating with each other, coordinating with Patty, and also gathering data, gathering information, speaking to other people, as I saw you did, speaking to city officials, not just from here, but also Port Hueneme. And I just, I'm so very impressed with all of the work you've done. I hope that you are also impressed and that those who are supporting you are impressed with that as well. And I see that our Public Works Director is here in the audience, and I'm sure that the findings and recommendations you had there certainly were something that things that he was listening to. And when we see things like replacing receptacles in parks and getting new lids, I mean, those seem like such simple steps that we should be looking at. I think that that's absolutely something that you will probably see in the near future. I also want to thank you for the tangible examples you gave us with the pictures there. We hear people who have concerns and say, hey, trash is overflowing. Hey, there's a lot of trash in the alleys. And it's a very abstract concept sometimes, but to see it on the screen is a reminder of this really happens in our communities, and in our communities is where our residents live. And just as you said so clearly, the way that a community looks also plays into the value that people who live in that community place on themselves and the place where they live, right? So I could see only positive change coming from this type of work, and you all were part of the foundation of that happening. So that being said, thank you so much for all the work you've done on this. I know that when it comes to the trash container capacity, I was very fortunate to be in the Zoom meeting where Sarah from our environmental resources had presented to you all. And I learned a lot from there too. That was the first time I'd heard all the details about our organics waste program and how we need to be properly putting all of our food waste into the green containers now. And I hope that through the work that you all have done, folks who are watching tonight can know that if you're not doing that, you should be, because number one, we have to be. But number two, it can also take a number of, or some of the trash that goes into the gray container and now it places in the green container. Hopefully it'll allow a little bit more space, or at least not be so overflowing. But I learned a lot from that meeting. So thank you for coordinating it. And the last thing I'll say is that the work that you all have done, I think it's important to note that just as Mr. Herrera had mentioned, you are young leaders in our city, and for people who may have their own opinions or say negative things about the current generation, I think that you are a shining example of what your generation is doing, and completely not just what you're capable of, but what you will be doing. And I want to thank all of you for that, and thank all of the adults who are here tonight to support you, and those who couldn't be here but have supported you doing this work as well. And so thank you so much for all of this. And I'm really looking forward to what happens next from it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Madrigal.
Go ahead.
You're next.
No, I'm not in a rush. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll take it. Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. It is very much appreciated. I know how difficult it must have been to do this project, and now it culminates into this one presentation. I want to thank you. As any of you would know, looking at the pictures, if it's walking or even driving through on trash day, you know how it becomes a mess or it becomes an adventure driving through some of the streets in the city, here in the city. And the thing that hit home the most is having pride where in the area that you live in. I actually want to thank Environmental Resources because I know that trash day is a huge problem in my neighborhood in La Colonia. And I know that 5:45, even though people complain that garbage pickup is literally at 5:45 a.m. I'm thankful that it is at 5:45 a.m. because then it avoids some of the issues that you see with seagulls and other stuff throughout the neighborhood. And that goes a long way. You have come and done something that a lot of people wish that they could do. And all of us up here are very proud of all of you. And it's something that, as Councilmember Tehran said, it's little things that we could do to show that, you know, these last 8 months, it was just not work, but your work actually meant something. And you're going to see your work be put into action. And you're going to see that your voice carries a lot of weight in this city. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank the Youth Coalition for being here. In my household, I like to watch the news. My wife and my mother-in-law refuse to watch it with me because it depresses them. And all you see is, you know, the conflict in Ukraine, street takeovers by street racers, and all the negative stuff that shows up on the news. You think, my Lord, where are we going as a community? And we sit here tonight and see the work that you've done. We listen to the things that you are trying to do for your community, and you are the breath of fresh air that reminds me that our community has good future leaders. We are in good future hands, that there will be another group of people to step up and help lead us in the right direction and get us through all the craziness we've been through for the last 3 years. So I thank you very, very much for what you do. It is very, very important. And it really is refreshing to see positive news come out about our community, our youth, and the future that they are stewarding for us. So thank you for all your efforts. Walk with your head held high. Be proud of what you do. Never be afraid to engage, and never be afraid to step up and speak your mind in support of your community, because it is extremely important to all of us. I can't thank you enough for what you do, and say how much I'm refreshed by seeing the future leadership of this community standing right here in front of me, and know that I'm in good hands. Our community is in good hands, and we have a very bright future in front of us, thanks to, in part, to your efforts. So thank you all very, very much for what you do.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilwoman Lopez.
Thank you, Mayor. Ladies, I just have to reiterate what has already been said. Thank you for being so creative, for thinking outside the box, for engaging everyone. I don't know if it was strategic on your end to have representation from different neighborhoods throughout the city, but I think you have all done an amazing job, and I hope others will follow in what you have done, and continue to engage with our city and leadership, not only within the city, but throughout the county. And I can see so much more potential in the ability to bring projects and recommendations forward that will help and enhance our community. So I want to thank each and every one of you for the diligent work and research and the process that you have undertaken to bring positive change. So thank you all.
Again, thank you so much to the coalition, Youth Coalition, and I'm sure the staff took up some good notes, and we have an excellent report that you gave us here, Thank you again, and Patty, thank you again for the good work. Thank you so much for Bright. Councilman Perrello, thank you.
Yeah, young ladies, I'd like to, number one, thank you for mentioning the neighborhood you came from. There are oftentimes we hear very little from specific neighborhoods. It's a tremendous compliment to your neighborhood that you spoke up. But I take it as a tremendous compliment to your parents or grandparents, whoever taught you to be able to speak up. The very first time an individual comes to that podium and talks in public, I imagine there's some intrepidation. It doesn't feel comfortable. You guys did a great job. You're a compliment. And you're not kids, you're young adults. Shortly, you could be up here. I appreciate everything you've done. I may see things a little bit differently, but the things that you've highlighted have not been highlighted in the manner that you've highlighted them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us speak up.
Thank you. Okay, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes. I think it's 6 o'clock. Thank you. Okay, thank you. We're back from our break, and this is the opening ceremonies, the Pledge of Allegiance. Please help me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for the people in Ukraine. Please, thank you.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, our next item, we have a couple of accommodations that we'd like to give out. And there's about 4 of them. We're going to start off with the presentation designating the month of May 2022 for Older American. And we have, this is, let me see, Alicia Ellis Sweetland. Can you want to come up? Go ahead, put me on. Diego, thank you. Okay, and this is a proclamation, May 2022, Older Americans Month. Whereas the President of the United States and the Governor of California officially proclaim May as Older Americans Month in recognition of our many contributions made by our residents 55 and over. Where the City Council wishes to pay tribute to the honor to those older adults who provide immeasurable contributions to our community. And also the City Council encourages the city older adults to utilize and enjoy services programs offered through the Senior Service Program. Those services, the program assists in allowing many older adults remain independent in their own homes and communities while maintaining their dignity and self-determination. The City of Oxnard commends the Senior Services Commission for its advocacy involvement in the seniors of the community and providing and enhancing services and programs that are benefit to them all. The older adults of Oxnard are recognized and acknowledged for their experience, their knowledge, expertise, and numerous contributions that enhance and enrich the quality of life of the city's residents of Oxnard. I therefore, John C. Zaragoza, Mayor of the City of Oxnard, proclaim May 2022 as Older American Month in Oxnard and invite all residents to join in the deserving recognition of our seniors and honor them for what they do for our city of Oxnard. So I put my hand and cause a great seal of the city of Oxnard on this the 3rd day of May affixed to this proclamation for you today. And you want to share a couple of words?
Oh, it's a pleasure. We enjoy what we do.
Yes, we do.
And we appreciate the honor. Thank you so much.
Yes, we did. Thank you so much. Like I said earlier, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this Senior Services Commission group.
And I feel the same way. This has been an honor and I enjoy serving. Thank you very much.
And put your hands together. One of the things that we mentioned earlier was that the seniors provide thousands and thousands of hours, for the community free of charge, and you help us out in many, many events, and we want to thank you for that. If we put a number for that, I think you mentioned, or somebody mentioned about $85,000, 850,000. Okay, I'm trying to shortchange these young folks here, but $850,000 is tremendous money. Thank you again for helping us out. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you again. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay.
So we have our next one. Okay, let me see. Let's get this first one. Okay, we have our next one is Asian American Pacific Islanders, and we have Jen Benitez. Jen, coming up. While you're coming up, we'll say this is a proclamation, Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, May 2022, whereas the Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders Heritage Month is a month to celebrate and pay tribute to a contribution by Asian/Pacific Americans, American history and society and culture. The month of May was chosen to commemorate with the immigration of the first Japanese to the United States of America. That was back in May 7, 1843, to mark the anniversary of the completion of the Trans Railroad, May 10th, 1869, and the majority of the workers who laid the tracks were Chinese immigrants. Whereas Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders distinguished themselves as leading researchers in science, in medicine, technology, innovation, farming, ranchers, distinguished themselves as lawyers, judges, governmental leaders in the arts and literature and sports, and war heroes who defended our country from fascism, and also peacetime healthcare heroes, currently in the front lines of the pandemic. Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders comprise ethnicities and languages of many, and embody the American experience. Today, there's 20 million Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders that live in the United States. Now, therefore, I, John C. Zaragoza, Mayor of the City of Oxnard, proclaim Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month in the City of Oxnard, invite all residents to learn more about Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders heritage culture. And I'm going to put my hand on this and cause a great seal of the City of Oxnard on this day for this proclamation. And again, here we go. Want to share a couple of words?
Oh, sure.
Do you want me to read this?
This is yours. I'll have the Mayor Pro Tem hold that for you.
Okay, awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Benitez. I am the founder and executive director of Pinay Sphere. Pinay is the colloquial term for Filipina. And what we do is we amplify youth voices in our community, specific to Filipino American girls. We do BIPOC and LGBT communities. We offer free mentorship, art programming, and annual art exhibitions, which we host on Filipino History Month in October. I was invited today from our city manager, thank you, to come and speak. I am partnering up with Oxnard Performing Arts Center, along with my organization, Pinay Sphere, to host our very first AAPI festival on May 13th. It's going to be at the Oxnard Performing Arts Center. Doors open at 5. We have Kenny Endo, who's doing taiko drumming. We also have a bunch of other performers, artists, a whole bunch of speakers, Alexander Wynn, who's also going to be there, along with Channel Islands High School's principal. So I invite all of you to be there, come and join us and support what we're doing. Thank you all.
What's the date on that?
May 13th at 5 p.m. Until midnight. We have an after party as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you so much. And we normally have the flag raising ceremonies here in the City of Oxnard. I'm not sure if it's going to happen this year or probably next year, but thank you again to the Filipino community. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next proclamation, we had to have Michael Wolf come up. Michael Wolf, and this is Public Works Week. And this is Public Works Week is between the 15th and 21st of 2020. This is to proclaim Public Works Week in the recognition of the contribution of Public Works employees and the well-being of our residents. Whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are vital and vitally important to a sustainable and resilient community, to public health, and the high quality of life for the citizens of Oxnard. Whereas infrastructure, facilities, services could not be provided without dedicated efforts of the professional staff of Public Works and their operators, engineers, managers, employees of all levels who are responsible for rebuilding and improving and protecting the city's transportation, water supply, water treatment, wastewater, public buildings, and other structures, facilities essential for the residents and businesses of Oxnard. For this year, the theme of the Public Works is Get Ready and Be Resilient, to highlight the superheroes that lie within each other, within each and every Public Works professional, always ready to serve the community in the resiliency and ability to pick up themselves when they're down in the ground. Well, is that important? Again, therefore, I, John C. Zaragoza, Mayor of the City of Oxnard, hereby proclaim Public Works Week in the City of Oxnard, and invite all residents to join this well-deserved recognition of our Public Works Department and give them a place of honor and respect for the City of Oxnard, and place the great seal of the City of Oxnard on this proclamation. Thank you. Mr. Michael, if you'd like to say a couple of words.
Sure. Good evening, Michael Wolf, Director of Public Works. Before I get started talking about Public Works, which could be an hour or so, I do want to point out that the next proclamation is for a whole month, and we're only going to take a week for Public Works. So this is the third agency I've been the Public Works Director in. And some of you know this is my hometown, so I was proud to come back. But the team here hasn't disappointed. It's a very great team. They're very, as stated in the proclamation, they're ready to go. Always at call every time we have an issue, every time we have something to address. This is a team that really is ready to go. And I would like them to stand up because we have a lot of folks from Public Works. If you wouldn't mind standing up in the crowd. So this is a great team, folks from water and wastewater, from our administrative side of the house, engineering. We have some folks online as well from our ER and park. So this is the team that does all the great work, sometimes unseen, sometimes not unseen, but this is the group that does that great work. And I wanted to thank them for their dedication.
Thank you, Michael. And as mentioned before, Public Works has done an excellent job for the community with water, wastewater, and for roads. In fact, one of the things we're having now because of Measure E, I want to thank our folks that voted for Measure E. We're getting complaints now because now the roads are blocked as opposed to potholes. And because our alleys are not completed on time and so forth, or the parks had not been watered as it was supposed to be. But thank you to all Public Works for that. Put your hands again together for all the Public Works employees. Thank you so much. And we're not done yet. So I'd like to call Vito. Vito, where are you? This is a proclamation, Building and Safety Month, May 2022, where the city of Oxnard recognizes that our growth and strength depends on the safety and economic value of homes, buildings, and infrastructure that serve our residents both every day and times of natural disaster. Whereas our confidence and resilience of building and infrastructure is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians such as the building and fire prevention officials, engineers, architects, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, and construction workers, industrial workers, year-round, and ensure that our safe constructions and buildings are done. Thank you. This guardians use a governmental consensus process that brings together local, state, federal officials and expertise in the building environment to create and implement the highest quality of codes to protect our individuals in the buildings where we live, work, and play. Thank you so far. For Building and Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code to remind public about the critical role of communities, largely unknown guardians of public safety, our local code officials, to assure a safe, efficient, and livable buildings. Whereas safety for all building codes in action is the theme today. Safety for all building codes in action. The theme for Public Safety Month 2020 encourages all Americans to raise awareness of the importance of building safe, resilient construction and fire prevention, disaster mitigation, energy efficient, career opportunities in building safety, new technology and construction in the construction industry. Therefore, I, John C. Zaragoza, Mayor of the City of Oxnard, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2022 as Building Safety Month in the City of Oxnard. Encourage all residents to recognize and show the appreciation committed by local code officials, engineers, architects, builders, and laborers for all the contribution and to keep a safe and resilient construction in the community. And this is signed by me, and we have the great seal of the City of Oxnard. Mr. Vito, you want to share a couple of words?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of City Council. It's a pleasure to be here today to celebrate this proclamation for Building and Safety Month of May. I'm joined here on the stage by Assistant Director and Building Official Jeff Pangilly, Deputy Building Official Steve Newman, and Supervising Building Inspector Sean O'Donnell. Another person I really want to mention today who couldn't join us is Jessica Smith, our permit coordinator. Just a couple of facts and figures. By the end of this fiscal year, Building and Safety will have issued 5,500 permits, representing an estimated $150 million in permit valuation. That is the value of work done under a permit. This also represents an estimated 25,000 inspections done by the building team by the end of this year. 6,000 residents in person will have been serviced in person at our service center public counter. And an additional 7,000 residents have received responses through the city's building permits portable. So I really want to just celebrate the tremendous work from our staff and just thank them for the work that they do every single day to inspect all of the work, to ensure it's done to code, and to ensure that they're providing for the safety and well-being of our residents and all of our customers out there. So thank you for this.
Thank you. Put your hands together. And before Vito, before you leave, I just want to share, and I mentioned it to our city manager today, that we probably have the best team we've ever had in the city of Oxnard, whether it's with your division or the public works or there's the police and fire and so forth. And I just sharing with the city manager that we need to compliment all our entire city employees for all the good work that you guys do. Put your hands together again for building the safety. Thank you. 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 Thank you so much. Wait, thank you. Oh, you want? Who's got? Who's taking? Oh, there it is. Okay. Ashley Stone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vito.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Good.
Jeff, how much did you pay for the Grecian bread?
Thank you. Thank you so much for our employees and all the proclamations and also the older Americans. Thank you so much. Our next item is item E, and this is items not on the agenda, and we have a couple of speakers I'd like to speak. And let me see, we'll start off with Dan Pinedo. Dan Pinedo. Got 3 minutes.
City staff and public. My name is Dan Pinedo. I'm a resident of the city of Oxnard. John V. McGarry was born in Oxnard, California on February 8th, 1931. John graduated from Santa Clara High School and served in the United States Air Force. He was a teacher, a principal, and a superintendent in the Real School District from 1959 to 1990. Mr. McGarry also served on the Ventura County Board of Education. My first interaction with Mr. McGarry remains in my memory. This bright-eyed, shining, smiling man with a crew cut came up to me in a way a longtime friend would do, as if he had known you for a long time. Mr. McGarry left that indelible impression in my heart. I later came to know him as the man, the person, the human being he was. Or should I say, he is, because he left his legacy not only with his family, but in part also with some of those he touched, genuinely impressed and inspired. I feel fortunate to be one of those. In recognition for his 31 years of service to the Real School District community, the Rio Vista Middle School gym is being renamed John V. McGarry Gymnasium. Mr. McGarry passed away last year, and community members presented the renaming idea to the Real School District. An advisory committee was created, of which I was a part of. At their last meeting, the Rio School District approved the renaming recommendation. A renaming ceremony will take place on Saturday, June 4th, 2022, from 10 to 11 a.m. at the Rio Vista Middle School, 3050 Thames River Drive, Oxnard. Mayor Zaragoza, I am here to invite you and all city council members, in particular, those of you who have real schools within your district. They would be Councilman Bert Perello, Oscar Madrigal, and Gabe Turan. Mayor, council members, staff, public, I hope to see you there. Thank you very much.
What is the date again? Time
Thank
and
you,
date?
Dan. Give us a date again, Dan.
That would be Saturday, June 4th, 2022 at 10 to 11 a.m.
Thank you. I definitely will be there. Thank you. Our next speaker is Reverend Greg Runyon.
First off, it's weird being back up here. Like having been gone for so long, I feel like I should get 30 minutes or something. It's been a long time.
It's been a couple of years.
Yeah, it's been a while. So we're glad to be here. I actually am looking at Alex. I'm laughing. I'm up here, but it's not funny. I think all of you saw today that, and it's going to be weird to talk to us as local leaders, but I think it's important. Saw that there was a leak from the Supreme Court about an issue that is divisive and is very politicized. But I hoped that the pandemic would have brought us closer together, that we would have realized that we need to learn how to celebrate our differences instead of trying to divide. And I'm very big on that because I think that we turned into a society that wants everybody to accept our culture, but we want to reject yours. And we've gotten to where if I don't agree with you, it means I don't like you. I can look at all of you and point to decisions that you've made that I don't agree with. I remember, and I talked to Gabe about this at Eric Sonstegard's retirement party. There was a comment I made when I said, I don't always agree with them, but I can respect them. And we've forgotten that as a society. And I am concerned that the next few months we're going to turn them into if you don't do what I want, I don't value you. And we have forgotten that what makes our country great is that we learned how to live together, not apart. And I'm hoping that you all as leaders will remember that there are Republicans and Democrats, independents, libertarians. There might even be communists and socialists in your district. I certainly know that there are atheists in our world, and it took a lot for all of us to learn that, you know what, that there's a statement that people make all the time, and they say, I don't like you, but I love you, which is ludicrous. So we got to learn to love people that aren't like us. We got to learn to appreciate that though I don't agree with you, I can love you. And I hope that you all as leaders will do your best to unite us, not divide us. And, you know, as I get ready to close, I remember a while back when I quoted a verse and Bert kind of said, don't do that. But I will tell you, guess what? It's my right. And Bert and I are friends beyond friends. We love to talk and laugh because you know what? I need to learn and we all need to learn. It's what we don't agree about that if we can learn to live with, it makes us a great society. So I challenge all of us to learn to love people. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. Okay, our next speaker is Mr. Larry Stein. Larry Stein.
Where's Nine over here? She didn't call me.
I'm calling you, but thank you, Larry. You got 3 minutes.
Good evening, members of the City Council, staff, and the general public. In 2010, the issue was passed that the GREAT program was going to be funded. That the GREAT program was supposed to be the backbone for a water system. Where are the ASR wells? Not built. 5 years ago, they've not been built. 10 years ago, they've not been built. Not built now. We're in a drought. Right now, the users of potable water are paying close to $14 million a year to support the users of non-potable water. But we still don't have the ASR wells. Staff has not told me why it takes more than 3 years to build wells. I submitted requests for information from the city clerk, and the city clerk refuses to provide the information to me. I asked questions 4 months ago about $1 million, a billion, that's a B with a B, $1 billion project, 1,000 homes. Where's the water going to come from? No answers from staff. So why can't we build the ASR wells? Is there some sort of secret deal with the city attorney or the city clerk or the finance department or somebody in public works that we're not building the wells? Because the 40,000 ratepayers are paying for it. 40,000 ratepayers are paying $14 million a year for water they're not getting. $14 million a year is being spent by the ratepayers subsidizing the payers of non-potable water. The payers of non-potable water aren't paying their fair share for this water. And that's, my opinion, a violation of Prop 218. The city attorney says it's not a violation of Prop 218 because the water levels are being prevented from going down. But the water's not being pumped in the aquifers to prevent the water wells from coming down. Or the farmer says, oh, well, the farmer's going to be using this water instead of pumping water out on their own. Well, doggone it, the contracts are coming up for these ratepayers, and perhaps the contracts should not be renewed. Because the ratepayers of the potable water are paying $14 million a year, and our city attorney doesn't seem to get rats behind. Our finance department doesn't seem to get rats behind, and our public works department. The proud people of the city of Oxnard that you said are the greatest people in the city don't seem to give a rat's behind. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Larry. And by the way, we are building an ASR well over on 5th and K Street as we speak now. Thank you so much for that. Madam Clerk, any other speakers? And
No additional public speakers. Thank you, Mayor.
thank you so much. And our next item is item K, a report from our city manager.
Yes, if I can ask Diego to put up the slides, please. Thank you. This is going to be a very brief update. Okay, so out the gate, just a gentle reminder that there is a lingering pandemic. Over the last 10-day period, we've got a 14-day moving average in the county where we can see the positive cases are very slowly but inching back up. We're seeing that among city staff as well. I actually communicated to one of our staff this morning who's tested positive, and based on his description of the symptoms, while he doesn't need to be hospitalized, they sound pretty bad to me, certainly worse than a typical flu. So just a gentle reminder to people to continue to be cautious in certain situations, especially indoors. Next, after 2 years, we've ended our deferral of late fees on utilities, so they will begin again on June 30th. So we're providing ample notice as required to our customers. There's information going out across various media as well as in the utility bill. So this is a reminder that starting on June 30th, late payments will will have late fees assessed. Next is a quick update about a complicated process with regard to our housing element. So very quickly, after we submitted our housing element to the California Department of Housing and Community Development, commonly known as HCD, along with other cities in the state, they have reviewed and provided their comments back to us, which occurred, see if I can get this to work, whoops. My Pink Panther light's not working today. No. This thing is just slow. So HCD provided their comments. We then reviewed them and are now prepared to resubmit our responses to them. So starting this week, we will be submitting back to HCD, and we will be posting the amended housing element on our website. And starting the end of next week, starting May 13th, HCD will then begin their 60-day review of our amended housing element. Simultaneously, we're required to conduct community outreach between May and August, which we will do. And then depending on how HCD responds to our amended housing element, we will at some point later this year have to bring it back, most likely to the Planning Commission and then back here to the council. So the August and September timelines for Planning Commission in August and council in September are just projections. Okay, so with that, I'm going to call our Public Works Director up to give a very, very brief update on the Regional Water Agency announcements from last week. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, Michael Wolf, Director of Public Works. So briefly, 2 weeks ago, I was here talking about the drought. So I will be updating on some local regional agencies that have taken action last week. So back to back, last week, 26th and 27th, we had Metropolitan Water District, and then our local state water project provider, Cayugas, take resolutions to their board stating water drought emergencies and implementing a framework for reducing water usage from the state water project. And so what that means to us, as I mentioned before, we'll be coming to council on the 17th, trying to provide recommendations, or we'll provide recommendations to work within that framework. But basically, they're giving two options. One is to reduce outdoor watering to 1 day a week as one option. A second conformancy option is to meet a volumetric per month water usage. And so we'll be making recommendations based on our information. So we'll bring back the 17th, but basically that action was taken by both those regional agencies last week. And this is an ever-changing and fluid process. So we appreciate council's patience while we put the staff report together and present it on the 17th.
And Michael, I'm sure that you're going to mention in your report later on that there's going to be some pretty hefty fines if we don't follow the Cayugas, Metropolitan Cayugas mandates.
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Mayor. So they're throwing around $2,000 an acre foot as a penalty if we don't meet one of those pathways to reduce our water usage.
And this is going to be effective June 1, right?
That's correct. So
Potentially.
that's correct.
Yep. Councilman Perrella.
Mr. Wolf, the biometrics, is there a charge involved with us figuring out that method?
So again, there's not a cost. Is that your question involved?
Yes, to the
Not to us. So as this progresses very quickly, there's actually not a lot of detail in the volumetric. We kind of know the rough estimate. And so once Met and Cayugas get to the details, they'll give us an actual number that we'd have to meet.
Okay, and the second question, the $2,000, is that to fine to the city or to a resident?
So that would be for
10,000.
us to pay.
For the city, thank you.
We're going to have more details
Yeah,
on May
thank you.
17th.
I know. Okay, thank you. Well, I know that's not on the agenda. Thank you so much. Mr. City Manager, go ahead. That's it. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for the report. Our next item is item G. This is where council members might have some brief announcements of their activities. And also if they want to share any items that should be placed in the agenda for future items. And council members, 3 minutes, please. And we'll start off with Mayor Pro Tem McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I hate to disappoint you, but I won't take the whole 3 minutes.
Yeah.
This week is Transportation Week. After tonight's meeting here, tomorrow morning will be a Gold Coast Transit District meeting at our new facility on Auto Center Drive. And on Friday will be the Ventura County Transportation Commission. All of us are starting to return to in-person meetings. And a lot of the transit districts are starting to look at the future if depending on what Health and Human Services does, whether or not we will still require masks or not, but we all are trying to get back to some semblance of normalcy. So it's going to be an interesting month in terms of transit. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And let the record reflect that Councilwoman Basso was here. Okay, let me see. Then we have, excuse me, Councilman Turan.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of quick updates. The first ones I'll start with are between our last meeting and this one. I had the privilege to be able to attend a couple of events. One was hosted by Oxnard PD for Police Officer of the Year. And congratulations to Senior Officer Maria Peña for being awarded that and earning it. And from what I saw, the many potential candidates had done some incredible work on behalf of the community and really looking at a community policing model. And then the following day, I attended the retirement for former Assistant Chief Eric Sonstegard, and he is now officially retired from the city of Oxnard and he's taking some time off. And I'm wishing him well before his next chapter, which we saw at our last meeting, which will be Chief of Edgewater, Colorado. So I was happy to attend those, and I thank the folks who helped coordinate those. I also attended 2 neighborhood council meetings. First was the Sierra Linda Neighborhood Council, and that was their first in-person meeting since the entire pandemic. And I believe they had about 30 folks in attendance. It was a very good turnout, and they had a lot of really great discussion. And they also, I want to give them credit. They utilized some of their neighborhood council funds to put a donation towards our Oxnard Canine Foundation for our canine program. And so I want to thank them for thinking about, what they can utilize their neighborhood council funds for in a way that goes towards the community. And lastly, I attended the River Park Neighborhood Council meeting at Rio Vista Middle School. That was also their first in-person meeting, although they were meeting on Zoom throughout the pandemic as well, but it was great to have them back in person. At that particular meeting, I do want to give thanks to number one, the neighborhood council chair, Ms. Ty Hartley, and to our staff from special districts. And last year, one of the requests that I had, I know Ms. Hartley was vocal about it as well, was having some intentional and inclusive outreach to residents from special districts about the budget for their CFD. So the last meeting that they had in person, they had the special district staff came out and they presented to the folks in attendance, and they presented the entire proposed 22-23 CFD budget for River Park. And not only did they show them, but they sought their input. What do you think about these levels? Should we increase? Should we decrease? What do you think about that? And I was just incredibly impressed with the efforts of our staff on that, and thankful that they were able to do that. Because of the transition back to in-person, I'm sure that, there were some other things that folks probably had to do that evening. There were 4 residents in attendance. However, the discussion was great. And I would like to request that any River Park residents who are watching this now, please provide input. There will be a video going up about your CFD's budget. And I'm hoping that if you have thoughts or whatever your thoughts are, you'll share them before it goes to Finance and Governance Committee next Tuesday, I believe. Is that Mr. City Manager? So next Tuesday, for Finance and Governance, that will be the first time it comes to the committee. So I encourage you to take a look at the presentation and provide any input you may have. And those are my comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Excuse me. Thank you, Councilman Madrigal.
Thank you very much, Mayor. First thing I wanted to go over the weekend, it was my mom's birthday. So I know that it was a wonderful time spent with my mom this past Sunday. On Saturday, I had the opportunity to go to the Idea Day event brought to by the city for the Future Sports Park, right at the end of the West Village neighborhood, right next to Pacifica High School. And I also had the opportunity to go to Rock Into Sports, an event that was a partnership with the Oxnard School District. And that's 6th, 7th, and 8th graders doing sports. It was a wonderful event at Frank Middle School. Also, over the last 2 weeks, I had the opportunity to attend the Juntos Podemos event brought to us by Cal State Long Beach graduate students at Oxnard High School. It was a wonderful event. Lots of people showed up. Actually, I've been working with one of the grad students probably since the pandemic started, about 2+ years ago. And then even though we don't do these anymore, I especially want to give a shout out to a food truck, and that's Birria El Güero. The reason for that is because one, he was actually my former student, but two, the aspect of putting family first. He gave up part of his business to spend more time with his 3 little girls. And to me, that shows the type of person he is. He's willing to spend time with his kids. And then tomorrow, I will be one of the speakers at the Rose Park neighborhood meeting. They'll be meeting at the Rose Park Library. Even though the school is under construction currently, they will have their first in-person meeting at Rose Avenue for the first time since 2020. This weekend, I had a resident reach out to me and they wanted to take a walk down Parque del Sol, which is in my neighborhood. We saw lots of debris, we saw drug paraphernalia, we saw knives, and I even got to see a broken down cash register, all within the park limits. She also showed me other aspects, and then she did have an issue with Roundup that was thrown early Saturday morning at the old housing projects. She did state that there was no paperwork, signs, or anything distributed. And then she did get an argument with people who were spraying on Saturday morning. And then lastly, I want to congratulate all high school seniors who are going to a 4-year school, community college, or just simply finishing up high school. And today is Teacher Appreciation Day, so I want to give a special shout out to 2 of my teachers that helped me actually get to college. I had no idea what college was, but they led me on the way. And that would be Mr. Guzik, which I had the honor of giving him a plaque on the day of his retirement during the pandemic. And then Miss Blanc, she was my Spanish teacher and someone I actually take a lot of my teaching strategies from, so even to this day. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Then I have some comments I'd like to share. Then last week on Wednesday, Martha Guion, my assistant, and I were invited by Food Share to participate over at College Park, and we gave out 800 boxes of food to the people out there in College Park, serving the people of South Oxnard. And it was just alarming to see how many people still are looking for food nowadays, but I just want to thank Food Share and their CEO for inviting me over to distribute those boxes of food. On Thursday morning, Martha and I again attended the National Crime Victims Week. It was held for the first time in Oxnard at the Performing Arts Center. It was sponsored by our DA, our District Attorney's Office. So I want to thank the District Attorney, Eric Nazarensko, and his staff and vendors. And it was really well attended. The Ventura room was really packed with people, and it was just absolutely great to hear a lot of the testimony from a lot of the victims that we have here in Oxnard, and it was well attended. Then on Thursday evening, I attended the 19th Annual Scholarship Banquet sponsored by the National Latino Peace Officers Association. And I want to congratulate the 21 scholarship recipients who were given $1,000 each. And we had a lot of our youth speak today, and I want to share with you that we had 21 young kids, that straight A students, and they each got $1,000, for their work, for grants to the. So we're in good hands. I just want to share that with you because I know we still have our youth here today. It was really a great ceremony, and Mayor Pro Tem was there with us too. And I think you donated several $1,000s, for some youth there. So I want to thank you for that. Then on Thursday, then on Saturday, I also attended the Sports Park Idea Day over at Gonzalez and Oxnard Boulevard to receive the input from the community. It was very well attended. There was lots of people, great ideas for the future parks of Oxnard. And I still have a young lady that was there with us Saturday, and a lot of other people that were there giving us their input on what to build there at the lot, or the vacant lot there on Gonzalez and Oxnard Boulevard. Then on Sunday, I also attended a luncheon over at the Crown Plaza Beach Hotel to keep it blue. There's a head of the U.S. representatives, quite a few Congress people were there, quite a few dignitaries, assembly persons, state senators, and also our district attorney, Eric Nazarensko, made a presentation too on the status of his office in Ventura County. Again, there was about 200 people that attended that event, and well attended. And finally, I want to thank all the mothers. A happy Mother's Day is coming up here on Sunday. If you don't have a mother, there's just other mothers that we need to commend for all the beautiful work they do for us. And thank you, council members, for allowing me to share a couple of words. Councilman Perrella.
Thank you. And thank you, Mayor, for the mothers. Without them, we wouldn't be here. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Had the opportunity, as other council members have mentioned, the Crime Victims Week, the retirement for Mr. Sonstergaard, the police officers, Kiwanis police officers meeting, where some tremendous information was given out for peace officers and the awards they gave. I mentioned one during the senior event earlier in the evening. Had an opportunity to attend the Western Ventura County Business Alliance, had a presentation at the top of the Tower Club for the president of the Cal State Channel Islands. I had an opportunity to attend that. The city manager was also there. All of these were good events. Had the meetings, the Oxnard Airport Authority and the Channel Islands Neighborhood Council. They were both going on at roughly the same time. I had to leave the Channel Islands Neighborhood Council once the Airport Authority started, so I couldn't do two at once. Had the opportunity to go to the Ventura County Airport Authority, along with the president of the Airport Authority, Ms. Vianney Lopez, council member. I've had the opportunity to address some questions with respect to residents and items that they sent to the city clerk and they thought were not in the minutes. I greatly appreciate the city attorney's office and the city clerk for pointing the facts out in the direction to indicate they were in the city minutes. I've been given information by the Dunes Neighborhood Council, and I want to thank the Public Works Department with respect to some issues that they've had with potentially traffic obstructions at the intersection of Beachcomber and Harbor. And I want to give a shout out to Supervisor 5th District, Ventura County, Ms. Carmen Ramirez. There is an incident at the corner of Doris and Patterson with individuals selling food products with no restroom facilities and no water to clean up. People are videotaping the people using the non-existent restroom facilities and still serving food. It's come to the attention of the residents and the Cabrillo neighborhood. They gave it to me on my plate, and I was able to get a hold of the city and the 5th District. The 5th District staff, Mr. Angel Garcia, got a hold of me, let me know that there's been several times when the county has basically busted the individuals, but they return again and again. This may go to a higher level of authority, but health, safety, and welfare is a big thing no matter where we are in the city of Oxnard. The fact that there's more people in this room today, and I want to say hello to the Mr. and Mrs. Pinedo, Mrs. Brown, everyone else that I have not seen for quite a while. And of course, the Reverend. It's good to see people back. It is, you forget very easily how long ago that was. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. And Pat Brown, I missed you. Items that are on the agenda. You want to come up and share 3 minutes worth? My apologies. This is a yes.
Is this the one on the trucks on Oxnard Boulevard?
Yeah, this is items not on the agenda and the trucks on Oxnard Boulevard.
Okay. About, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, I got together with the woman who was in charge here in the city of trying to work with the truck drivers in the large trucks to get them off of Oxnard Boulevard. And she obviously, somebody's trying to call me, and she obviously could not
It's probably the
get
truckers.
anywhere with them. So what I did is I came and spoke to the city council a few times about this situation, but it is increasingly getting worse. And it must be somebody else's phone. Anyway, what I have
Please mute
noticed,
your phones. If your
what
phone
I
is,
have noticed is
Thank you.
that
Somebody's phone is on.
turn the damn thing
Maybe
off and it doesn't go off. I have noticed that in the past 6 months, 8 months, it has gotten much, much worse than it was before. And I'm wondering, we have all these vacant spaces, business spaces on Oxnard Boulevard, north of Woolley Road, empty. And I'm thinking, you know what? Nobody's going to come here and shop on Oxnard Boulevard. Nobody's going to do anything as long as those big, huge trucks are there. And they just make it look like it's part of the freeway is what they try to make it look like. And it's getting very, very aggravating. I even saw several years ago, I saw a truck coming out on 7th Street going westbound and making a U-turn on Oxnard Boulevard at 7th Street with his truck and great big trailer. He didn't care if he knocked down any light poles or anything. It made no difference. He was making a U-turn and going back. Apparently, he didn't know where he was going. But this happens regularly, this kind of thing. And we've just got to get them off. The signage, we have the signage up. They don't pay any attention to the signage. They're going west on Woolley Road towards the 5 Points intersection. And then they make a right-hand turn and come up Oxnard Boulevard, going to the freeway. There was no reason for them to be coming westbound in the first place. They should have gone eastbound over to Rice and gone up Rice Road to the freeway. But no, they want to come up Oxnard Boulevard. It's enough to drive me up the wall. And I imagine a lot of other people that drive that too. Thanks.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you. Our next item is a review of the information consent item. And also the other, we have 6 items here, but we do have some public speakers before council members. Okay. You want to go ahead and,
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull 6 out for an individual vote,
okay, we'll put.
and I'll make comments on it later.
Okay, so then we'll go ahead and I have a couple of speakers on the consent. And it's Pat Brown. You just said you had for the consent item. This is item J3, Portofino project.
The next item that I have here on the info consent agenda, Community Development Department.
I see Portofino Place.
And that is on the Portofino Place,
Right.
south of Oxnard airport.
So go ahead then.
And this is a question of putting it into multifamily instead of the business. And I think that's a great idea. I really do. As a matter of fact, I think some of the people who work at the airport would like to be able to live right there and be able to walk across the street to work and back. I mean, what a way to go. Just get rid of your car, at least for downtown. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Larry Stein for J3.
I have a slightly different opinion on this. One of the reasons is water. Where's the water going to come from? These homes. We're in a 5-year drought. They've been working on the wells for 3 years. There's no indication when the wells are going to be completed. And this property is zoned originally for commercial use. Part of our master plan was for commercial use. So why are we building homes when you have no water? Yes, we have a housing issue, but that's not going to lower the cost of housing. The only thing that's going to lower the cost of housing is demand. If some catastrophe took place, says if we ran out of water in Oxnard, what would the demand be like? We have an area in Oxnard right now, or actually in the Oxnard Plain, that's developing a downward curve due to the overdrafting of water. What happens if this curve collapses in the Oxnard Plain? What will that do to demand? Probably not help demand much. Again, the real issue is water. We're supposed to have a neutrality water policy. And as such, any new development is supposed to be water neutral. So how will this project become water neutral? Are they going to build a tower somewhere and import water from the Midwest? Because guess what? The reports are showing there's no water in Lake Mead, or it's dropping off tremendously. There are concerns that the dam and reservoir feeding into Lake Mead is dropping off Powell Reservoir. Again, you're seeing reports, hopefully, on the internet and other reliable sources saying, we got water problems. And the state says, yeah, we need to build 5,000 new homes in Oxnard. Well, that's great, but there needs to be infrastructure. We need water. And we're building wells, but the well's not been completed. We got plans coming up we'll be discussing later about the capital improvement project. But again, I'm opposed to this project and these amendments simply because we don't have water for new housing. I wish to have the issues of water neutrality addressed. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Larry. Madam Clerk, do we have any other speakers on this item?
We do not have additional speakers on this item. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, council members, so then we have items 1 to 6, and Mayor Pro Tem wants to pull item 6 for a vote.
I'd like to pull item 3 also.
Item 3 also? Okay, we'll pull item 3. So how the pleasure of item 1, 2, 4, and 5? What's the pleasure? Recommendation by Councilman Basua.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Lopez. Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, so since we're closer to 3, we'll take 3 and then 6. Deferral? Okay.
Yeah, the reason that I'm voting no on this, I serve on the airport authority. I've asked in the past. I took a position when this first came up from the airport authority with respect to the proximity of the airport. The concerns, I'd asked in the past at the airport authority if there would be a map showing the number of places and locations and dates where planes have gone down in the area. And the public speaker did bring an excellent point up about the water. I serve in Public Works and I serve on the Fox Canyon GMA. Water is a big issue. And I don't feel comfortable in changing my vote. I will vote no on this.
Okay, thank you. So do we need a motion to approve this item? Okay,
Second.
first by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilor Duran. Please vote.
Motion passes 6-1.
Okay, then we'll take item 6.
May I have a request, Mayor? We have item 6 as a two-part item. Are we going to vote on the entire item?
Let's,
Each
both,
individual?
both 1 and 2.
I'd request that we vote on individual.
Okay, let's go ahead. Item 1.
I thought so, but
I'm not stopping. I just asked the question about.
You want to say something?
I'll just make a quick comment. I understand the idea of rent control, that we need to protect a certain element of our population, but a lot of the reading I've done on rent control is that in order to have a successful program, you need 1, a viable rent control program, and 2, sufficient housing stock that's available for people to utilize. And without both of those, rent control oftentimes has the negative impact on the people we're trying to protect of causing their rents to go higher. And that's certainly not the intent of this program, but my fear is that because we're doing this so quickly, we don't have adequate affordable housing stock at this point in time, that it will have a detrimental impact on the people that we're actually trying to protect. So because of that, I can't support this at this time.
Okay, so there's we want to take item number 1 first. You said Councilor Varela? Okay, so we have a motion for that. Motion to approve by Councilor Basua.
I'll second.
Second by Turan. Please vote.
Motion passes 6-1.
Okay, then we'll take a motion for item number 2.
I'll move approval of item number 2.
Okay, first by Councilman Lopez, second by Councilman Basua. Please vote.
Motion passes 5-2.
Okay, thank you. Then our next item is K1, and K1, this is the time and place set by the public hearing for item K1 from the Public Works Department. The subject is a 5-year capital improvement program, fiscal years 2022 to 2027. The recommendation is that the City Council, number 1, hold a public hearing to receive public testimony regarding the proposed 2022-2027 City of Oxnard 5-year capital improvement program. And 2, approve and authorize the fiscal year 2022-23 and 23-24 projects to be selected from the proposed 2022-2027 City of Oxnard 5-year capital improvement program. And 3, adopt the 2022-2027 City of Oxnard 5-year capital improvement program. And we start off with the city clerk's certification of publication, any written communications, if any. Madam Clerk?
Mayor Zaragoza, there was a legal notice for this public hearing published in the Vida newspaper on April 21st, 2022. And the city clerk's office has not received any written communications on this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members of the public were invited to sign up to speak on this item in the city website. And any person who did not sign up can do so now by following the instructions posted on the agenda for this meeting in the city website at oxnard.org city meetings. And of course, then we have our city engineer, Tatiana, who has, in accordance with the measure, and posted a video presentation regarding this item. Is available to answer any questions or any brief clarifying questions council members may have before we take any public testimony. And the council members can deliberate after the public hearing has been closed. Or do any council members have any questions at this time? Councilman Turan?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Arnaud, for the presentation. I have two questions. One is about the capital improvement program in general, and then one is something that came to mind that kind of was sparked by a comment by Ms. Brown earlier regarding Woolley Road. So the first question, because Measure M prohibits the public from seeing this presentation live tonight, I see there are 27 views as of now on the YouTube page, and 7 of them are here who viewed them. Well, actually, I saw it twice because I saw it for Public Works Committee, and then I saw it again for this meeting. But if you wouldn't mind just explaining for folks watching now, in general, what is the capital improvement program? How does it function or serve our projects for the next 5 years? And just a little general information about that.
Yes, you got it. So I'm Tatiana Arnaud, your city engineer. So basically, the purpose of our capital improvement program is to provide us with a roadmap of what construction projects or improvements we're going to execute or plan on executing over the next 5 years here in the city of Oxnard. It's based on many things we prioritize in several ways. And basically what we are looking to do is tackle a lot of starting with all the deferred maintenance and any health and safety related projects we may have. As well as maintaining the existing facilities that are here under our basically that we want to obviously manage. And then beyond that, anything that's new or expanded. So for instance, our South Oxnard Aquatic Center, a new Wilson Senior Center, things of that nature. So this is what that plan that we put together that basically puts forth what we are going to execute over the next 5 years. Now, we did something a little different this year where you are going to actually be approving the budget for, well, what would be going into the budget for the next 2 years of our CAP, and that's to help us with better planning. Most projects don't take us just 1 year to execute. They roll over multiple fiscal years, so this will help us with better planning. And it's also going to help us with it's labor intensive to put these programs together, so it'll help us just do this more effectively and efficiently across the board. So that, in a nutshell, that's basically what the CIP is all about and what you're voting on here today.
Thank you very much. And just kind of as a follow-up for some of the new projects that we can expect to see in this new CIP, one of them that's identified is one that came from discussions for our ARPA funding with the Woolley Road protected bike lanes. And I've stated a number of times, as have a number of my colleagues here, the importance of improving our bicycle and pedestrian safety throughout our city. Our infrastructure, especially for cycling, really needs some modernization and making it safer. When people complain about traffic, rightfully so, if people were able to safely bike to places they want to go throughout the city, that's at least one less car off the road or one less single vehicle occupant trip, correct? So Ms. Brown had brought up the issue of large truck traffic on Woolley Road, specifically westbound on Woolley Road east of 5 Points. And I'm just curious if we have any data that shows, why that corridor might be used, or if it is regularly used by large truck traffic, and how that might affect protected bike lanes. Maybe it's a stronger case for protected bike lanes for all I know, but I'm just wondering if that might come into play at all here.
Yeah, so for that project, that's something that we would definitely look into. Historically, trucks have gone up and down Oxnard Boulevard. It was our old PCH. Now that has been moved over to Rice, but there's a lot of truck traffic that hasn't necessarily made that change along with us. And so that is something that we've worked on, where she mentioned that we've put up signs that indicate that Oxnard Boulevard is no longer open to trucks. We encourage them to go over to either Rice or Del Norte or Ventura or Victoria. We're going to need a little bit of assistance probably on the enforcement side to help with the truck traffic itself. But once we get into the design of these protected bike lanes along Woolley Road, that is something that we will be definitely taking into consideration as we get into that.
Thank you for that. And I, it's unfortunate, but I think specifically near that area, there was unfortunately a cyclist who was killed just this year near the 5 Points intersection. I believe that a large truck was involved in that. And it's very sad. It's a reality we deal with. And I just feel every time we lose a pedestrian or a cyclist, it's another reminder of we need to be working on this and focusing on this. So thank you for that response. The last question is, if folks would like to see the full document for the CIP, how can they find it or where can they find it?
They can find it on the homepage of the Public Works Department's website under City of Oxnard.
Great, thank you. Those are my questions, Mayor.
Thank you. Before we go to Mayor Pro Tem, isn't now the truck route Rice Road as opposed to Oxnard Boulevard?
That's correct.
Yeah, so potentially the trucks in there start using or maybe steered over to Rice Road as opposed to down Oxnard Boulevard. Most of those trucks are probably had to go right into the right. So thank you so much for that. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is more of a comment than a question, but, and I would encourage people to look at the CIP program on the website and see where the projects are planned for the next, 1 to 5 years. And the reason I say that is I hear a lot of comments on social media about, gee, the city of Oxnard is just patching these potholes. Why don't they just repave the whole street? Well, you have to look at how that street may interact with the CIP program, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to repave a whole street if within the next year to 2 years, you're going to dig it up in the middle to put new water lines in. And, as good as you can be about patching stuff, once you cut into the street, it ruins the integrity. And the only way to really fix it is to repave the whole thing curb to curb. And so it's just throwing good money after bad. If you pave it, and then within 2 years you dig it up, because a street should have, I would suspect, a 10 to 15-year life cycle if it's in good condition. Well, every time you cut into it, it's no longer in good condition. So I would encourage people to look at the CIP program, and that may explain why we're patching the old potholes instead of repaving the street, because we know within the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to dig up a water line there, get rid of the cast line, put in PVC line, and then that's the time to repave it and get a good, resilient, strong, sturdy street. So, and I think just a lot of people don't understand how government approaches things sometimes that way. So I think it's a smart way to do it. I think it's a fiscally prudent way to do it. Is just making sure that people understand why we do it the way we do. So, thank you.
And before we go to Councilman Lopez, and we also have a phased approach, and we have a schedule for the work that we're doing for our streets and our alleys and the infrastructure and so forth that people need to look at. Because the complaints that I'm getting now are, why are we tearing up this alley? What are we doing next? What are we doing? Why? Those are good complaints as opposed to, how come we're not patching the potholes and so forth. Councilwoman Lopez.
Thank you, Mayor, and kind of connecting both your comments as well as Mayor Pro Tem's, and I am cheating a bit because we did hear this in the Public Works Committee, and it being earlier a presentation on or a proclamation for Public Works Week. So I wanted to again highlight the incredible work that is being done by the Public Works Department in coordination with the other departments in the city to complete so many projects and as was mentioned in different phases. And so Ms. Arnaud, if you could share some of those accomplishments, as much work as is needed to be done, as many issues as we do see out on streets and neighborhoods and areas that require some improvements. I again want to celebrate and highlight the work that has been accomplished by the department and city staff across all departments. So if you could share about that, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Lopez, thank you for giving me the opportunity to take this time to thank all of our staff, not just in Public Works, but in finance and community development as well, that really help us push all these projects forward, right? So every time we have a project in construction, we're obviously trying to pay the bills, and that somehow touches finance and their staff. And every time we're trying to get permits, that touches community development and their staff. So it goes across the whole way. As far as accomplishments go, we did complete 19 projects valued at about $45 million this past year. We do have 15 projects right now that are currently in construction. So these are contracts that have been awarded that are valued at about $80 million. And mind you, we're a small but mighty crew here. And so this is pretty big. We do have another 10 projects right now roughly that are in the bid phase. Those are valued at about 70 million. The big one being the reliability improvements at the wastewater plant, which that'll be coming soon in front of you for award as well. What we did complete were, as most of you have probably seen, a lot of street resurfacing was done this past year. So we completed in various residential areas where the PCI levels were 20 or 35 or less. So we kind of tackled the worst of the worst for starters. And then we did do some maintenance work on those streets that were in slightly better condition, but we want to maintain those in those conditions so that it doesn't get as expensive later. Some other projects that we did complete, you'll see down C Street, we completed some bicycle facilities there. That actually made the cover page of the CIP this year. So thank you for Councilmember Turan for basically posting that photo, which kind of led to the idea of needs to be on our CIP cover page. And then for parks, we did expand and refinish some basketball courts there. So that was wrapped up recently. We also did, bless you. We did some walking path improvements and landscaping there. La Colonia green alleys, that's pretty much wrapped up. So basically we did some bulb outs and pedestrian crossings in certain key areas. And the idea is that these are supposed to make it safer for our children to walk through these alleys to get to their respective schools. As far as facilities go, we did remodel the finance floor, the third floor. It was in a terrible, dilapidated state. It wasn't very functional. And now they have a new space that's a lot more functional and usable for them, especially as their team has been growing. So I probably couldn't have come at a better time. So that's just a little summary of some of the key projects that were completed this last year. Obviously, there's a ton more, but just want to throw those out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to Councilman Perrello, I just want to share something else that's really important. 99% of the people that I talk to really say we're doing a good job. We are doing a good job, Tatiana, the city manager and the council members. There's a 1% or 2% you'll never satisfy. I don't care, what you do, then they'll never be happy. But I just want to thank you again for the good work that you're doing.
We can try, Mr. Mayor. We'll try.
Councilman Perrello.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Arnott. With respect to describing how my fellow council member Lopez asked where the work has been done, I think it would benefit the city of Oxnard to take the example of the young women, young members of our community that spoke at the very beginning of the meeting. They identified the neighborhood council they were from, and they identified specific things that they saw. If we could identify the same for the public in the city of Oxnard, where homes, streets, sewer, signs, trees, whatever's been done, pictures before and after, where the neighborhoods are, the names of the streets. Close to 250,000 people live here. When a picture goes up, they don't know where it was. But that picture, they had the street identified and they had the neighborhood council where the people that were speaking. I don't know if it was their neighborhood council, but I think it would benefit this city to do that. So that's a suggestion. I have a specific question. Can we put the slides up on the screen that are in your presentation? Slide 12?
No.
Can't do it? Okay. Slide 12 shows the city annex, which is the building across the street from this building, City Hall. And it says on slide 12, building and structural upgrades, Appendix E, City Hall Annex exterior improvements, number 1, CUP improvements, fleet, various things. But the amount of money that's been identified that we want to spend on the exterior, which is basically 2 paint jobs, a paint job for this building on the outside and a paint job for the building across the street. On page 326 of the staff report, we identified capital outlay projects 301, City Hall, HIVAC, and EMS. And I'm not sure what EMS is, 2 of them, $800,000. What is the value for the City Hall and Annex exterior? And the reason I ask this, I was in support of this. I supported this. But since that happened, we've had a special city council meeting where some tremendously scary information came out about how vulnerable the city is with the information technology and the security that we have in place, in need of a tremendous amount of work. And that work is not just physical. It's got to buy things. I'd make the request of my fellow council members to take a good look at this. Do we want to take these funds, whatever it is identified on page 326, and put it into the information technology and security. Because if something goes wrong, whether it be somehow messes with payroll, somehow messes with our funding, somehow messes with finance, it could be tremendously hurtful to the city. And I don't know where else to ask that question other than at a city council meeting when we're identifying discussions like this. And on the same token, an issue that I've fought for over a number of years, painting the sidewalks red where fire hydrants are. I'm willing to forego that, to take whatever funds are involved with that, to put them into the information technology. It would be the equivalent of having a car, and it would be the equivalent of, we need to get a new paint job, but the brakes don't work. Steering's a little goosey. It's not really safe, but we got a good looking car. That's why I'm bringing up the issue about this paint job and the amount of money that we're talking about. Can you enlighten? Exactly how much money are we talking about?
So I could actually enlighten you a little bit on that IT issue. The HVAC and the EMS project, which stands for Emergency or Energy Management System, actually is related to the IT infrastructure that we do have housed in that building. So we need to make sure that we have a well-functioning HVAC system so that the system itself can remain temperature controlled as necessary. And the energy management system is also to help make sure that all of those components from that standpoint are functioning well. So that's what that project is about. And like you mentioned, I believe that one's about just under $1 million. Now, the paint job is obviously not related to that. That was an ARPA funded or an ARPA request. And so that was voted on previously. Those have already been appropriated to that project. But hopefully that helps ease your mind a little bit, at least with the HVAC and EMS, which is primarily there for the IT equipment, but obviously the HVAC will help with the rest of the building. But
I appreciate the responses and I appreciate the explanation of what it does. It does absolutely nothing to ease my mind with respect to security for the city. Thank you very much.
So anyway, I like to share a couple of words on this. You know, this building here and the I call it the bank building across the street has lots of deferred maintenance. That building's been there for well over 50 years. It was a bank before. And one of the things that we did the other day, we looked at it, there's a deferred maintenance like you wouldn't believe, you know, there's cracks that need to be sealed and it needs to be painted. And if right now we're looking at X amount of dollars, if we don't repair that now, a couple of years from now, 2 years from now, it's going to double the cost. Instead of the 600,000, it's got to be $1 million, $2 million. So I was a council member here going back into '96. And I remember at the time that was said, we were going to paint this building. And I said, no, we can't do it because we got to finish the community service building. We can't do it because we're going to do it at the library. And this is just imagine if it was your house and it needed painting and you had cracks on the roofs and cracks all over the walls. Would you defer it for a couple of more years? You know, I don't think so. The other thing too, that in fact, it was a member went over to my office and they said, Mayor Zaragoza, you have the police department. And they pointed to our building. Is that the jail? And I said, no, it looks like a jail to me. So, and also it's the entrance of downtown Oxnard. Here, we're going to want to renovate Oxnard. We want to bring downtown Oxnard and we're the face of downtown. And how does our building look, you know, with all this deferred maintenance and so forth. So I believe that we need to do that. And the longer we wait on the deferred maintenance, the more it's going to cost us. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you. Okay. Any additional comments? So, excuse me, Councilman Tehran.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to say one more thing, and Councilmember Perello did spark another item as well. Thank you for sharing about the HVAC requirements for our technology infrastructure. Just in a nutshell for folks, when it comes to sensitive equipment or technological equipment, heat is the #1 enemy of our hardware, especially when it comes to our network infrastructure. And they have to be in a temperature controlled area that keeps it optimal for it. And the cooler, the better. So thank you for bringing that up. Lastly, I just, I didn't recognize the picture on the cover and I said, oh, I love that picture. I remember seeing it, but I didn't know that by posting it was part of the the genesis of that. So I do want to give credit to downtown Oxnard, who I believe took the picture, and it was a great picture. And it just looks like it's in the morning, and you can see the paving on C Street. You can see the now green striped bike area where there's conflict between bikes and cars, so that everybody's reminded of that. And it's a great picture, and it's a good indicator of where our city is headed over the next 5 years. So thank you for bringing that up as well.
Thank you so much. And now I'm going to open the public hearing and testimony portion. And Madam Clerk, do you have any speakers on this item?
Mayor Zaragoza, we do not have any public speakers for this public hearing.
Okay, however, I do have one here that probably not on the virtual, but we do have one public speakers on this, Larry Stein.
Good evening, members of the public, city council staff. I'm probably considered one of those 1 or 2% that are never satisfied. I don't know if that's good or not. I bring issues up that seem to be ignored. Last year, we talked about beaches and the lifeguard station. We have 10 miles of beach and no lifeguard station or facilities for the general public. Ventura has it. Port Hueneme has it. And Councilmember McDonald brought it up last year as one of the issues he's concerned about. To have a lifeguard station would probably incur a $500,000 in infrastructure costs on a one-time basis and approximately $100,000 per year for services. Again, most of the services are for lifeguards, and most of the lifeguards are college-age students who are earning money to go to college or through college. But that's just one thing, $100,000 per year plus $500,000 the first year for infrastructure. Maybe I'm complaining about that, who knows? The other issue I wish to bring is talk about the sports park. The sports park is actually mitigation. It was mitigation that was supposed to be completed by the city through the city attorney's office and through the director of public works, public development. This was a comment made by the city mayor's office last week. The mitigation has not been completed. Perhaps we need $25 million to complete this. It's 25 acres, $1 million per acre. Start funding it with $12 million. I suggest that this capital improvement project be including $12 million for this fiscal year to start the mitigation that was supposed to be completed 15 plus years ago or 25 years ago, depending upon the year you wish to use. Again, this is a mitigation. And the sports park was supposed to have been done for the neighborhood of West Village and the Northeast Community Specific Plan. This mitigation was not completed. There needs to be a financial commitment by the city if we expect to see anything done. Without the money, we're just whistling in the wind. We're just passing the kite by. We're not doing anything unless there's a mitigation, unless there's actually funding by the city. We've had 3 park master plans. We even had a proposal 10 years ago where the funding was being committed. It's going to take 3 years to do this. The last time we spoke about a parks master plan, staff, our public works staff said, oh, we need 20 years. Staff has had 20 years to do these things. Staff has had 20 years to complete College Park. Staff has had 20 years to complete Sports Park. Staff is sitting on its backside. The wonderful, excellent staff that we have has been sitting on its backside. The other issue I wish to talk about has to do with the fact that we're not doing anything with the money. We're doing things. Thank you very much for your
Thank you,
time.
Larry.
I wish the clock had been started beforehand for a better sense of time. Our city clerk's not doing a very good job.
She gave you an extra minute, Larry, that you didn't realize. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to highlight something by way of repeating it. Our city engineer, Ms. Arno, already covered this, but I want to especially highlight this, which is we're going back to something that's a little bit different that hasn't happened for a long time in the city, which is with this CIP, we are asking to commit the budget over 2 years. Now, going forward, once we have the completion of our advanced software system, the so-called ERP, we do want to get back to a 2-year budget cycle period. So I just wanted to be clear, I fully support this because as the city engineer pointed out, it really helps us in terms of planning, but also in terms of efficiency. But again, what you are, should you approve this, what you are doing is committing not only the budget for this year, this coming year, but also the following year, which means the following year's city budget, you've already committed this portion. It's not, it's nothing magical about it. Just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. You want to share anything else? We're good. Okay, so any other speakers on this item?
We do not have any additional speakers.
No
Thank you,
closed
Mayor.
public. Okay, if no other speakers, I'm going to close the public hearing. And council members and comments? Go ahead, Oscar.
Thank you very much. First question. I know that there is some money going to citywide alleyway resurfacing. Quick question. Oh, my apologies. Real quickly, I know that there is some money being set aside for citywide alleyway resurfacing. Is that going to be concrete or?
Oscar, I said she can't hear you because
Yes, they will be primarily concrete alleys that we're pouring. So these will have a 30 to 50-year life expectancy.
Okay, thank you very much. Second question is concerning the playgrounds. I know we talked about this at length, and I see that there is money set aside for 23-24. Is that correct? Not 22-23?
So we already have some funding that came through ARPA that was appropriated. I believe that was about $3 million. And we have another 1.1 or $1.2 million that came this fiscal year that we're in, that we're about to put out to bid here the next couple of weeks for the 1.1 million. And then we're going to move forward with the 3 million in this next fiscal year through ARPA. Following that, we are requesting additional playground funding, yes, in 23-24 to continue the playground replacement program.
All right, and lastly, I do see that the South Oxnard Library HVAC renovation is going to be done. And I want to commend everyone on staff for this. I know that actually last week going to the South Oxnard Library in general, I see that it needs a lot of TLC. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Council members, any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I'll move approval, Mayor.
Okay, moved by Lopez and second by Turan. Roll call, vote, please. Okay.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Okay, our next item is item L1, and this is the city treasurer's report, the city treasurer monthly investment report for the period ending March 31, 2022. And the recommendation is the city council receive and file this report. And this report was is viewed and required by SM as a pre-recorded presentation by Mr. Phil Bolina, our treasurer. Any questions on this item?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Mr. Molina.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council and the public, I'm Philip Molina, the elected treasurer. I'm available. If anyone has any questions or concerns, please let me know now.
Okay, any questions?
Excuse me.
Any questions, concerns? No, there's no questions, Mr. Molina. So this is a receive and file. So thank you so much for your report.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Our next item is L2, and this is the Finance Department. This is adopt a resolution approving the Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act, WIFA, loan from U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. And the recommendation is the City Council adopt a resolution approving the installment purchase agreement, indenture of trust with WIFA loan agreement, and also the WIFA loan term sheet with respect to the issuance of the City of Oxnard Financing Authority of the bonds in the aggregate amount of not to exceed $55 million and any other matters pertaining thereof. And that the Board of Directors of the City of Oxnard Finance Authority adopt a resolution approving the installment purchase agreement, indenture of the trust of WIFI loan, and also the WIFA loan term sheet with respect to the issuance of the City of Oxnard Financing Authority of the bonds in an aggregate amount, principal amount not to exceed $55 million and other matters pertaining thereto. And this, again, we do have a live presentation by our consultant. And Betsy, George, would you like to introduce the consultant? Oh, there she is.
Yeah. Hi, good evening. Thank you. Betsy George, Chief Financial Officer. And we have NHA here. Christian Sprunger is going to do the live presentation on the WIFI loan. And also Tatiana is here for any questions on the project.
Okay, so we'll start with the consultant?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Hold on before Mayor Pro Tem. Excuse me, Councilman Barella.
Ms. George, I have a question.
That's a question for you.
Transactions that take place under this document, are they done on city's website, city's email only?
Yes, they are.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Consultant.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Mayor Zaragoza, City Council members. I'm Christian Sprunger, an Assistant Vice President with NHA Advisors. My colleague Craig Hill is also present virtually tonight, and we are the city's municipal financial advisors. I'm going to share my screen. So bear with me one moment while I pull that up. All right, I've begun sharing my screen. I hope you all can hear me well and can see my screen as well.
Yeah, we can, yes.
Great, thank you. Tonight I'll be speaking about a Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act loan, also known as a WIFIA loan. The item is a continuation of an item that came before City Council in September of 2021. Additionally, this specific loan was reviewed by the Finance and Governance Committee in April at that meeting. The recommendation is that the City Council and the Board of Directors of the City of Oxnard Financing Authority adopt a resolution approving the WIFIA loan with an aggregate principal amount of $55 million, and also approving 4 documents: the indenture of trust, the installment purchase agreement, the WIFIA loan agreement, and then the WIFIA loan term sheet. To provide a little bit of background, the WIFIA loan program was authorized in 2014 to help local agencies finance water infrastructure projects. The WIFIA program is administered by the United States Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. The city submitted a letter of interest in October of 2020, and then submitted a formal application in September of 2021. Since that application was submitted in fall of 2021, city staff and EPA staff have had regular calls to coordinate a mid-May closing and funding of the loan. The WIFIA loan would finance a significant portion of the city's groundwater recovery, enhancement, and treatment program, the GREAT program. It will be used toward effectively doubling the capacity of the advanced water purification facility, construction of 5 additional ASR wells, mechanical and electrical upgrades to water blending stations, and finally a new 20-inch distribution pipeline. The total cost of these is expected to be about $85 million for construction, of which the WIFIA loan can cover up to 49%. The other 51% of those construction costs will need to come from some matching funds, whether that be city cash, future bonds, or other alternative loans. The WIFIA loan specifically presents several advantages to traditional water revenue bonds sold to the public markets. First, this loan will have a 40-year term. It matures in 2062. The public markets traditionally have a 30-year maximum term limitation, although sometimes bonds have been sold that have as long as 35 years. But a 40-year loan those don't happen in the public markets. It's too long of a term. They would be extremely rare if they did. Second, this loan will have a low fixed interest rate. And that fixed interest rate is based on the yield for a similar term US Treasury. As a result, the city enjoys a much lower interest rate than the city could achieve through financing on their own, about a 1.25 to 1.5% differential. The conservative EPA estimate is that this loan will save the city $19 million over the life of the loan. Relative to a similarly structured public water bond with similar credit rating as the city's water bonds, I estimate that the savings are closer to $30 million. So there you kind of have some bookends on the savings from this. In addition to the extended maturity and the low cost borrowing, the WIFIA loan will have flexible structure. So we'll effectively wrap the WIFIA loan around the structure of the outstanding water fund debt, with the majority of the WIFIA loan repayments occurring after the other water fund debt has been paid off. I'll show you a picture of that in a couple of slides. Finally, the WIFIA loan has more flexible prepayment terms than a standard water bond sold to the public markets. First of all, the city can prepay the loan in full on any date. Secondly, the city can prepay a portion of a loan on any interest payment date. While the interest rate that we expect on this WIFIA loan is low enough such that I would not expect the loan to be refunded for savings in the future, it is important that the city has that flexibility to prepay, to restructure that loan as needed in the future, given the 40-year term.
Hold on, Christian, there's a question here, Councilman Perla.
Yeah, certainly.
You, on that previous slide that we just looked at, you have a term highlighted, wraparound. Can you explain that in plain English, please?
Yes, of course. So when we are wrapping around the existing structure, to answer this, maybe I'll jump to 2 slides ahead and show you a picture of it. So the existing structure of the city's water fund debt is the gray bars there. And then the orange bars are the WIFIA loan repayments. And so as you can see, the WIFIA loan bar height is greater in 2041 onward, once the bulk of the city's water fund debt has matured. So we're kind of wrapping it around, trying to level out the aggregate structure to the extent possible. Does that answer the question, or can I provide any more detail?
I'm going to get asked this later on to repeat what you've just explained. Can you take another shot at it, please? Please help me try to understand this so I can relay it.
Certainly. Yes. So the objective of a wrap around structure is to target a level aggregate debt service for all of the debt. Because there is such a big peak and then drop off that happens in 2041, it's not possible with this loan to get all the way up to level, but we're doing our best to have interest only in the early years, and then we start amortizing principal in 2041 through 62. And so the orange bars are as narrow as we can make them from 2027 through 2040, and then the bars which represent the debt service payments are higher in 2041 onward, to enable us to, as much as possible, wrap that structure around the existing structure of the debt.
Thank you. That helps. Thank you very much.
Certainly.
Thank you.
So I mentioned the advantages of the WIFIA loan, and there are several of them. There's a couple of key stipulations. So first of all, I touched on this a few slides ago, but 51% of eligible project costs must come from the city. So this can look like a future bond issuance, potentially in 2023-24. It could look like a combination of bonds and cash. It could look like an alternative below market rate loan. There's some flexibility there with what that looks like, but 51% will have to come from non-WIFIA sources. The second requirement of the WIFIA loan is that the city will need to maintain net revenues equivalent to 110% of debt service. This is slightly higher than the current requirement on the city's outstanding water fund debt. The current requirement is 100%. The city's water fund had net revenues of 167% in fiscal year 2021. And so we don't really expect this 110% requirement associated with the WIFIA loan to be an issue in the near future. But we do want to highlight that future water bonds that the city sells will need to have that same covenant to be considered on parity with the WIFIA loan. Generally speaking, however, the WIFIA loan will be structured very similarly to the other city water bonds outstanding, except that it will be held by the federal government instead of public bond investors, banks. Here's the slide we touched on a moment ago, so I won't spend too much time on it. I'll proceed to the next slide and can go back there if there are any other questions. With regard to schedule, this whole process started back in October 2020 and has been a big effort on the part of city finance staff, public works staff, and city engineering staff since then. Pending an approval of the loan and the financing documents tonight, we are ready to close on this loan next week with the EPA. To conclude my presentation, the recommendation before the City Council and the Board of Directors of the City of Oxnard Financing Authority is to adopt resolutions approving the WIFIA loan in an aggregate amount of not to exceed 55 million, and then approving 4 documents: an installment purchase agreement, an indenture of trust, a WIFIA loan agreement, and then a WIFIA term sheet. And with that, I'll stop sharing my screen and take any additional questions you may have.
Okay, before we go to Councilman Turan, the question you mentioned is that the low interest rate, that 1.5 is going to save us a tremendous amount of interest, which I think is really important that we understand that. Can you share a little bit more about that? And then we'll go with Councilman Turan.
Certainly. The interest rate on the WIFIA loan is going to be based on a similarly termed treasury. So it'll be based basically on the 30-year treasury. And so this enables the city to borrow at a very similar term that the US federal government borrows at. So very advantageous terms. And I estimate that the water fund has an A rating. And so if the city were to sell bonds to the public market, they would be sold with interest rates that reflected that A rating. But because this loan is being secured through the federal government based on the treasury rates at the federal government's AA+ rating, there's a benefit there to the city to utilize that much higher credit from the federal government.
And then we start paying our principal in 2041.
That's correct. And the interest rate is, it does move until we close next week. Right now it's at about 3%, I estimate.
So thank you. Okay, Councilor Turan.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Sprunger, for the presentation. I just have a couple quick questions, and I apologize. I know I asked these same questions at Finance and Governance Committee, but I think they bear repeating for council tonight for the general public who are tuning in. The first question is regarding slide 6, where there was the requirement of the city to maintain net revenues at 110% of debt service due in each year. And so I'm not sure if Mr. Sprunger or Ms. George might be able to answer the question. Do we have reasonable assurance that the city would be able to meet that criteria?
Yes, currently, I think Mr. Sprunger mentioned we're about 167%. So we have a fairly healthy margin currently, and we've constantly update our forecasts and project revenue and expenditures for the water fund. And if we need to adjust rates in order to meet that, then that would be something we could do in the future if operating expenses continue to increase.
Okay, thank you. And I was trying to think of an analogy that might kind of help me wrap my head around this. Would this be the equivalent of if I had a monthly car payment, if a requirement of that was, let's say my car payment was $100 a month, 110% of that would be, I need to prove that I can make at least $110 a month to cover my monthly payment plus 10% of that. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. My second question here is just kind of branching off of this. If hypothetically, if there were to be a year that we could not maintain the 110% net revenues requirement, what would be, what would happen? What would the city have to do, or what would the procedures be from that, hypothetically?
We would just be required to remediate the circumstances. So I'm going to ask probably better language from Mr. Sprunger, but yeah, basically there's a time frame that we're able to correct that. And so then we would, again, look at the water fund and see whether we could reduce operating expenditures or increase revenues in order to meet that 110% requirement.
Okay, but as it stands now, it sounds like we have reasonable assurance from our CFO and from our consultant that that's something the city can meet.
Yes, and we're continually monitoring it to ensure that we do meet it.
Okay, that being said, if at some point there were to be, we're getting close to that threshold where it may seem like in a fiscal year or 2 fiscal years ahead of time, we may be close to not meeting that 110%. Do we have mechanisms in place to alert our finance folks and to our city manager and city council that may be something we need to look at?
Yes, I mean, we monitor it as well as NHA, as our financial advisors continue to monitor it. And we would work closely with Public Works and the city manager to determine what steps would be next to take to make sure that we address it.
Okay, all right. Those are my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And also maybe Tatiana, I know that initially it talked about this funding is going to be used for the AWPF, for the ASR wells, and for water distribution. And the ASR wells are really important, especially right now with the drought conditions that we have, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, when the governor's committee, we're looking at several ASW wells, I think 4 of them, 4 of the wells that we're looking at. Is that correct, Tatiana?
Actually, we're looking to install another 5 in addition
5,
to
I
the
thought it
one
was
that's in
4.
construction right now.
Mhm.
So if I could elaborate a little bit on that, we do have the one well that's in construction right now. Once it's done, we'll go through our permitting process, which may take a few years before we get the final permits from DDW to then blend with our potable water system through indirect potable reuse. And so this item is actually helping us gear up so that once we have those permits in hand, going behind that and getting these additional wells and obviously the improvements to the AWPF to support the new wells and being able to distribute the water to them. So basically this is part of that planning process, but yes. So in a nutshell, Mr. Mayor, we are adding another 5 wells. as part
And
of
looking
this.
at the analogy for an ASR well, it's like putting money in the bank for the future. We're putting water in those banks accounts for future droughts and so forth. So we have enough water there to actually, whenever we're short on money or short on water, it's there.
Yeah, correct. It's increasing our water resiliency here in the Oxnard Plain.
And also the other thing is the water distribution system that we need to work on. I think it's another one of the items that we work on. So I think those items are really important too, for the public to understand is why we're financing this money now. So we're looking at short-term, long-term, monies that we can use. Okay, council members, any other questions? Councilor Perlin?
Ms. George, what percentage, for 160 and we're supposed to stay at 110, when do you think that the advisor or yourself or the city manager would recommend that we come back to do whatever we can, cut expenses or raise rates? What percentage do we start to really focus in, 112% or?
I would, if we get around 115, 120%, that's when I would be wanting to look at it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, council members, so the recommendation is that we approve this as city council members and also as the Oxnard Financing Authority. Any speakers in this item? I don't have any speakers. Madam.
We do not have any speakers. Thank you, Mayor.
No speakers in this item, so moved by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilor Perrello. Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Our
Mr.
next item
Mayor.
is a public works item, and this is the Fifth Amendment to the agreement A8094 with WKE Incorporated for Rice Avenue at Fifth Street, State Route 34, the Great Separation. And the recommendation of the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to execute the Fifth Amendment with the WKE Incorporated agreement on A8094 in the amount of $495,559.48 for a new not to exceed contract of $9,500,957.18 to complete the plan specifications and estimates for the Rice Avenue 5th Street State Route 44 grade separation project. And we have Tatiana.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, very quickly, I want to make a quick comment about
Okay.
the previous item, the Whiffy loan. I want to thank the resident in a neighboring city, Professor Robert Brommer, who was really the driving force in encouraging us to pursue the Whiffy loan. When I first got here, he would often come and into my office, and now he's a professor, so every 15-minute meeting took about an hour. And I used to tell him that around the 45-minute mark. But he gave examples of WIFIA loans being effectively utilized actually to make similar repairs at military bases around the world, US military bases around the world. Took a lot of work for our staff to get through this. We certainly needed the assistance of NHA advisors, but as you can imagine, it's our bureaucracy applying to the federal, the EPA, to a much larger bureaucracy. So this was a huge lift to get us here, but it was Professor Brommer who really pushed us in this direction. So I want to acknowledge his advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Tatiana, we have two speakers on this item. You want to, let me go ahead and bring the speakers up. And the first speaker is Larry Stein, followed by Pat Brown. Larry Stein. 3 minutes.
Good evening, members of the public, staff, and city council. The purpose of fixing this intersection, if we want to use the term fix, the result of an accident that took place 10 plus years ago. A driver coming from Arizona at 4 o'clock in the morning turned left in the fog. And instead of landing on the 5th Street, he ended up on the tracks, train tracks. He left the vehicle, and as a result, the train hit the tracks and an engineer died. A freak accident. What perhaps we need to think about is what are the costs to do something to prevent this accident from happening. A $50 million flyover does not seem to me to be the best economic solution to this problem, however tragic as it is. If the intersection was better lighted, or even had some manned crossing guards over there for a fraction, $50 million, would resolve the issue. If the intersection was lit as bright as Dodger Stadium at night, even in the fog, would the accident still happen? Probably not. What is the probability of a car falling off a flyover in the fog at this intersection? Probably just as likely as being hit by a train in the fog at some point later. The point I'm trying to make here is the economic viability of spending $50 million on this intersection when perhaps $1 million or $2 million worth of lights to light up the intersection as bright a day in the middle of the fog would probably resolve the solution. Resolve what caused the problem in the first place. Yes, a tragic accident happened. But we do not need a solution that's convoluted. The simple solution probably would be the best. An economic solution probably even better. $1 million of lights would probably light up the intersection and resolve the problem. How much money has already been spent? It's my understanding that we've already spent $3 million on this project, but yes, a tax bond was floated. Part of our car vehicle tax is going to use to pay the $50 million of this. But is that really the best use of taxpayers' money to spend $50 million on $1 million solution? Perhaps we need to rethink this a little bit. Perhaps we need to think about our pocketbooks and not the taxpayer money being free at will. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Pat Brown.
I am waiting bated breath to get that 5th Street and Rice Avenue overpass done. I think it'll be much, much safer because of the trains coming there along Fifth Street. They just rolling along and they're not paying any attention to traffic. And unfortunately, a lot of the trucks and the cars don't like to stop when the street light changes to stop because of a train coming through. Sometimes they think, well, I'll make it ahead of them. It's very dangerous the way it is right now. And this needs to be done. It's absolutely needs to be done. And the sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned. And whatever I can do to help to make this thing happen, I'm willing to help whatever I can do for free. I'm almost 81. I'll be 81 in a few weeks. And I work for nothing, whatever I'm doing. So I'm waiting because I drive through there 3 times a week, going to the airport and then 3 times back. So to Camarillo Airport where I volunteer. So I am just, in fact, there was a train coming through there this morning that was going lickety split. Sometimes they don't even have I know they're supposed to now. They're supposed to always have a front car, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's like they're going backwards sometimes. So I think that's dangerous because of the speed that they're going. But who am I to say? So anyway, I'm all for it, and I'm sure that most of the people who drive in that area will be very, very happy to see this happen. Whatever we can do to make it work, we want to make it work. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. And Tatiana, I just want to share with you too that we know there was an accident out there by a truck that got on the railroad, in the wrong way and so forth. But that route is also going to help the freight that's coming out of the harbor into the Highway 101. Is going to help our Amazon. Is going to help Procter & Gamble. Is going to help all those industries that are there to get all their freight onto the 101 to Los Angeles, to San Francisco, and other parts of the nation, which is really an economic boom for all of us. And I think it's extremely important that we concentrate on the long-term future of our economic abilities here in the city of Oxnard, which is we're not just doing it because of that one car, but it'll save a lot of lives too in the process. Thank you for go ahead and share some more information on that.
Yeah, so this is basically a project that has multiple benefits, like you mentioned, right? So safety is first and foremost the reason this whole thing was funded, but yes, it has the added benefit that we'll have more effective transportation modes for especially our goods here between the port and getting to the 101, like you mentioned, through this project. They won't get stopped at the train tracks, waiting for the train to pass by every time. Now they can just go right over it and get there more fast.
And hopefully get this truck out of Oxnard Boulevard, which I think is gonna help us.
Hopefully that's one of the benefits that we notice once we have this constructed.
Yeah. Thanks. Any questions of Tatiana? Okay, Councilman Turan.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that the question that was just asked is pretty much in alignment with what I was going to ask. And really it comes from the concerns that Mr. Stein has brought up. And I'm just wondering if, as a more direct question, what are some of the benefits you would see at this site of separating traffic from the train tracks and from east and westbound 5th Street, especially truck traffic, as we've talked about earlier this evening on other items?
Yeah, so essentially we're eliminating conflict zones with the railroad tracks, and that's pretty much as far as safety goes. That's the major benefit there. I don't know if there's much more that I could elaborate on that front, but
I think that works. And I would say too that if it's just throwing out random numbers, if it was a 1 in a million chance that a truck might have a conflict or get struck by a train there, it's probably way less than 1 in a million, but I'm gonna throw out 1 in a million. It's much, much less likely if there's a flyover and the two never intersect with each other to begin with. correct?
Right. It's virtually impossible for that
That's
to
right.
happen at that point. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Perrello.
Yes, I want to thank both public speakers. Both public speakers hit points that are extremely important, and both of them very valid, in my opinion. One of the issues that we're not talking about, a lot of outside money is coming, federal and state money is coming in to assist this. That's very significant, because I recall the issues with respect to a potential flyover on Cooper, on Colonia Road and Gonzales off Oxnard Boulevard, and then the other in Vineyard Avenue. And then the other one with respect to the crossing just a little bit west of that on Rose Road. This item generated, because of a spectacular incident, a lot of money being poured in, publicity and everything else, and we need to take advantage of it. And other than that, I really respect Mr. Stein's question about taxpayers' money. There are a lot of things that government does, not just city government, county, state, or federal, schools, every government. There are issues where money is spent where it may not have made the most common sense, but you make a business decision based on politics and what's available. And that's where it's going. And Ms. Brown's 100% right. It will improve the speed of trucks until they get to Sturgis, until they get to Gonzales, until they get to Gasol. But that is hopefully going to be taken care of in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Council members, okay, so we got a recommendation here. So we have motion. Okay, first by Councilman Perrello, second by Councilman Tehran. Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Tatiana, thank you. Thank you for your explanations. And we are adjourned. That's the last item. Thank you.